6:59.
It's going. You're good.
That's right. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have all police commissioners in attendance, Chief Brown and Captain McKee, and public comment. Rick? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no, I'm skipping ahead here. Sorry, public comment. If we could, public comment. If we've got plenty of time, so if we can start with Jenny.
Can we move it to the end, because I think a lot of our questions may be answered after your updates in the new business. Or do we not want to? It's just a suggestion, because I know hopefully questions will be answered.
Robert's rule says, how do I move this to the end?
Someone makes a motion, it's seconded, and then 2/3 of a supermajority has to vote to move it within the agenda.
I'll make a motion to move public comment to the end of the meeting.
I'll second it.
I would also ask if anyone wants to say something now, so you don't have to wait for the whole meeting before.
So add a second public comment to the end of the meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Motion. Jason's motion, again.
I second it.
Any discussion?
We should vote on it, shouldn't we?
What's next?
Oh,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Public comment at this time?
I'll hold mine until the end, because what I wanted to talk about, maybe discuss in item 9.
Anyone else? Okay. Local Traffic Authority. Yeah.
There's a comment.
Sorry.
Question, Tom Frenet, Warnertown Road. I don't understand why a discussion about an FOIA request would be an executive session.
On the advice
Could you
of
explain that?
the attorney, that's how we said to put it. Now, Derek was supposed to be here and should be coming.
Good,
So.
thank you.
Anything else? Gordon,
Where do you get the bottles of water?
would you like one? I have contact.
Anyone else?
That will be $1 for it.
Anyone else?
I got
One more.
You're welcome. But we're not making any motions to adjourn to use the bathroom.
Oh, now you tell me.
Thank you very much.
We good? Sure, Mr. Stagg?
Dr. White?
Local Traffic Authority, Jack, or
Yield to the chief to update us on those.
Good evening, Commission. Just 4 updates. One with a subsection. The crosswalk issue that was brought to our attention in November. Been corresponding to you via email about the updates that we took, the 3 E's of traffic safety, the engineering, the enforcement and education aspect. After some enforcement efforts, we did an engineering study, found that one of the islands was deficient. We'll have some of the shrubbery trimmed to help improve visibility. There was obviously some Facebook and social media postings and some follow-up enforcement activity monitoring those sections. In the area of the your speed signs, they are up, they're functioning, they're actually talking to the cloud now. We have the first monthly reports that were pulled up by Peter Aswicki, who was instrumental in getting it all assembled. And just as a kind of a side note, we had 232,000 cars enter the center of town from all 4 directions in a 1-month period. So we're looking at 3 million cars traveling through the center of our town. The data that's collected is astronomical. The machines produce a lot of data that we can now use to focus traffic enforcement areas in all 4 of those areas as you approach town to understand what the ideal times and locations are to maximize our efforts. On North Stone Street, I believe I sent you out an email in the picture. Our town highway garage, along with Peter Aswicki again, took the original your speed sign from up on North Main Street, mounted it to the old radar trailer, which was defunct and broken, and essentially created us a brand new radar trailer for less than $1,000 when they typically run anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. So it was a nice cost savings. That was placed up on North Stone Street to start addressing the some of the hot spots in town. I know we had talked about Halliday Avenue, that's next on the list, and we'll be moving it. The highway department is in the process of purchasing 2 more small landscaping trailers to create 2 more of these portable signs so that we can start addressing some of these areas simultaneously. The benefit again is these signs collect data, so we'll be able to respond to citizen complaints about the legitimacy, how often, how much, when are they speeding. Again, it will give us the proper data to take appropriate enforcement action. The only new issue that came in this last period was, forgive me, Karen Drake from South Stone Street came in and wanted to address concerns about the speed hump on South Stone, being that there is only one hump. Apparently, she feels that the noise caused by trailers and trucks going over it is disrupting the few houses on each side of the speed hump. It's keeping her elderly mother awake. She's looking to either have the hump removed and or add additional so then cars stay at a lower speed throughout South Stone Street, so that then, in theory, when they strike the next bump, they're not traveling as fast and there isn't as much noise. It's something for discussion for the commission, whether they'd like to address adding or removing, or what kind of course of action they'd like to take. Nonetheless, I promised her that it would at least be brought before the State Traffic Commission or our Traffic Commission during the next monthly meeting. Any comments, concerns?
There was one other issue we talked about in the past, the Halliday Avenue, the gentleman on the corner there. I forget his name.
Yeah, this portable sign. We only have one. We're building two more. When it leaves North Stone, it's going there. I have a big laundry list of roads that I have to get it to. It's just I have one trailer and a laundry list of signs to put up.
Thank you. Any questions?
Let me ask you, Rick, is on the South Stone, I know you, a while back you put up speed bumps there. Wasn't there more than one?
Dude,
There were two.
yeah, but when they repaved, it's also minimized the height of them, which has had an effect, obviously, on how fast cars can travel over them. So we need to think about leveling it or recreating and adding more insufficient quantity.
Yeah, I knew there was something there back originally when we put them on there to try to control traffic. But unfortunately paving comes in between those things.
It's just one of those concerns. I bring it now because it is budget season, and obviously pavement management for town highway is something that's under consideration, not only within their operational budget, but through ACE. And if it was something we wanted to consider, I kind of need to interact with Mark Servio now to give him forewarning to, make some sort of preliminary plans for it.
What is the cost of adding an additional speed bump or removing the current speed bump?
The removal is far cheaper. The addition, it depends if in-house our engineer can actually design it. There's an appropriate, that manual of uniform traffic control devices specifies everything on a roadway. There's a set of specifications I'd have to give to him so then he could tell me material-wise how much it would be to meet the state, qualifications of what they're supposed to look like.
Are there any other complaints about the noise on that street, or is it just the
The
one?
residents immediately around the speed bump itself have complained at various points throughout history.
Well, let me say, the reason for the speed bump, or one or two, whatever we had there, came about because the residents were complaining about the speed of vehicles coming from it's a route from Massachusetts to, I don't know.
Route 20, out to Route 20.
Yeah, so there was a concern there about that, and that's how the speed bumps got there originally. Now there's a noise issue, somebody, I don't know, figured it out.
Chief, what's your recommendation?
At this point, if the budget allows, if we're going to do it correctly, we need to add speed bumps. Would be a permanent solution. If budget can't be controlled to that nature, then remove it, and we'll have to try to address it through education enforcement, the other two aspects of the 3Es. So it really becomes a budgetary item.
Whose budget? Ours? Or
Pavement, I would assume it would come from pavement management or from the highway department. I'm not even saying necessarily it's going to be pavement management as the fund, but I would assume that highway would be the source.
Well, it'd be my recommendation to follow what the chief, his recommendation for the street, and go from there.
I would expect he's doing that anyway, whether we recommend it or not.
Well, it's up to us then.
I think he already said that he was looking into it, so.
I can investigate the cost and get you a short email to help clarify things for you.
Have we found that they're effective? I mean, is Or do people just slow down in that one spot? Because I know that the height is way different than what I've seen in other towns, so I'm not sure if it was constructed.
And in the end, what might be necessary is in order to do it properly, we may have to take the one that is in existence out so that they're all uniform throughout. Again, there is a specific distance that they're supposed to be apart. There's, a number of factors. I think the fact that they are just on one end of the street allows the straightaway on the other end of the street to still be utilized in the same manner it's always been used, so. It doesn't control, it controls speed in one very small area.
Sure.
Good.
That's all I have for traffic.
Now we can do communications and announcements. Rick, please.
This is from Bonnie Spring, 235 Mountain Road. This thank you goes out to the police officer that kind of came to my rescue on January 2nd. My LLV was confronted with a vehicle coming up the front of the LLV on East Street North. I was okay. I was a customer looking for a parcel that sat on my supervisor's desk for 2 days. I told him that it was illegal to block a postal employer, and he told me that to call the police, which I didn't. However, I know one was just down the street. I appreciate the 2 times that an officer has stopped to check on me. Thank you very much, Bonnie Spring. This is to Chief Brown. Dear Chief Brown, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for this tremendous opportunity and experience with the Suffield Police Department. My time at your department has given me experiences and memories that will not be forgotten. Once again, my thanks. I was an honor and a pleasure to be part of your detective through internship. Regards, Patrick White. This is to Officer Dabowski. Thank you for going above and beyond to help me through what I felt like a helpless situation, showing my appreciation with some keto brownies. Signed, Melissa. Chief, thank you for sitting on the opioid panel that followed the Chasing the Dragon film. SLPC greatly appreciates your dedication towards decreasing the stigma and creating awareness about a problem that is not often discussed in Suffield. We are grateful for your partnership. Best, Suffield Local Prevention Council. Dear Kat, this is from Patricia White. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for this tremendous opportunity and experience with the Suffield Police Department. This is actually a repeat. Sorry. This is to Karen Doyen. Dear Mrs. Doyen, thank you very much for your help to acquire this wonderful internship with the Suffield Police Department. From start to finish, I enjoyed getting to know you and working with you. I also want to thank you for looking out for me by keeping track of my hours and getting me projects to work on. I appreciate it very much. Regards, Patrick White. Patrick is very appreciative. He's now writing a letter to Pete Swicky. I want to thank you for the help you had given me during that time with the Suffield Police Department. This meant a lot to me. Many thanks to you and your willingness to take me under your wing and teach me everything that you could about what happens in the department. I also want to thank you for allowing me to come with you to Windsor Locks and learn about the canines, the training that goes into being a handler, and for letting me take part in some of the exercises. Once again, I appreciate all your help and time you spent with me. Thank you. Regards, Patrick White. This is from the Beebe family. Dear Chief Brown and Captain McKee, I would like to recognize the kind-hearted and mindful conduct of Sergeant Jeffrey Miner. I'm from the neighboring town of Windsor and came to Suffield Police Station seeking understanding of a police matter I had been perplexed by in my town. He took the time to sit and patiently listen and thoughtfully explain point by point how law enforcement procedures are conducted in a professional manner. He was instrumental in helping build my trust in a police officer again. He's a wonderful example of what a police officer should be, and I am grateful. Sincerely, Wendy. This is from Art Crew, Suffield Volunteer Ambulance Emergency Management Director. On Monday, you all responded to a call at 10 LaFontaine Road for the unresponsive female. This was not one of the easier calls we deal with, and I know that all of you want to know that the prognosis and cause was. Unfortunately, she suffered a massive internal cranial bleed that was very poor prognosis. I received an update from the hospital yesterday that shows as of the time of the report, she was testing positive for brain death. This test needs to be confirmed a few times before it is the diagnosis. The hospital also expressed their thanks to our team for a great job. The only chance she had to survive this was provided by the hard work that all of you did on this call. Your work as a team and immediate care for her gave her every opportunity for the best possible outcome, and you should all be commended for what you did. Everyone worked together to provide the best care, and the teamwork between services and providers was amazing. I would like to thank all of you for this and express my appreciation for all of your hard work on this call that I know is a tough one to deal with. If I receive any more updates, I'll pass them along. This is from a Lewis Pyers. Dear Captain McKee, yesterday the CIT training, our speakers for the veteran segment of the training were unable to present due to unforeseen circumstances. Knowing how important this segment is to the training, I polled the class to see how many veterans there were, to see if any of them were willing to share any insights or stories to help the class understand the culture and best way to approach a vet in crisis. Sergeant Justin Nelson was the first to volunteer. He shared valuable information he learned as a result of helping a friend who was in crisis and gave the class suggestions, including how to approach and the need for genuine respect when working with vets in crisis. Sergeant Nelson significantly enhanced our discussion of veterans issues and saved the day. I wanted to let you know that we are very impressed with his professionalism and willingness to contribute to the training. Sincerely, Louise Pyers, MS Executive Director. This is a letter from Dan Bendini, to Mildred Webster. Hi, Millie. I wanted to thank you for your assistance this past Saturday when we had the 2 vehicle accidents on East Street North. Things were already hectic during the first incident at the 190 bridge when we had the second accident near Overhill. We appreciated you responding to our numerous requests during this time period while handling the other incoming calls. Thank you, and I hope this week was less eventful. From Dan. This is from Janet Frechette, Executive Director of Suffield Community Aid. Dear Suffield Police Department, on behalf of Suffield Community Aid, I extend my sincere thanks for your help this past holiday season. What an amazing display of compassion and generosity for the 266 residents that benefit from the kindness of our 58 holiday sponsors. Staff identified eligible households for the SCA's annual holiday basket program right up to Christmas Day. Due to the magnanimous support of sponsors, not a single household who qualified to receive help was turned away. This would not have been possible without your support. For residents who are struggling with financial and health issues, the holidays can be a particularly challenging and stressful time of year. We're truly appreciative of the Suffield Police Department for your part in delivering a message of hope and cheer to those in need right here in Suffield. You have strengthened our community through your commitment and thoughtful support, and we're eternally grateful. On behalf of SCA Board and staff, we wish you health and peace in this new year. Sincerely, Janet Frechette. This was from one of the recipients. Dear sponsor of Basket, I want to thank you so much for your generosity this holiday season. You helped make a family have an even greater holiday. We truly appreciate it so much. Thank you, recipient basket number 17. This is from Sabrina McDonald to Rick Brown. Good morning. I want to write and let you know that my husband and I have been so impressed with Suffield Police in recent years. We had a false alarm with our security system this morning, and an officer was at our doorstep right away. With my husband traveling often for his military job, I'm always comforted to know that we have a great police force should something happen, and we have had to call quite a few times. We're also so happy with the level of involvement in trying to make the bus routes safer for our kids. We only ever hear good things about our town police from neighbors and fellow residents, which speaks volumes to how the station is run. The police are one of the reasons we could never move out of town. Thank you, Sabrina McDonald. So ends the correspondence.
Want to take a break for a while?
I think so.
Okay. We've got previous minutes in front of you. Minutes of the regular meeting for November 28th. Anything jump out of you?
I read through them, and I didn't see anything that sort of jumped out at me. You did an excellent job this week, this morning. If there isn't anybody that caught something that I missed, I'd make a motion that we accept the minutes I've presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
We have a
January 3rd
January 3rd
special meeting.
Again, there was very brief meetings, very brief minutes. And again, as I read through them, they're verbatim to what I understood the meeting to be, or recall the meeting to be. And again, if nobody has found anything that I missed, I make a motion to accept them as presented.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. SRO department reports. SRO report. Good job.
Is it not included in your packets?
Let's see.
Just summarize that in the last 2 months, Tom's had a very, very busy schedule between training a number of calls requiring his investigative efforts, not only for texting issues, but also child abuse issues. So Tom has a high level of activity in these last 2 months. It's one of the thoughts that we'd like to add to the SRO program. I guess probably the greatest indicator would be, I know I sent an email to you some time ago. They had 5 mental health calls involving students in a single day. That's a lot to follow up on when we have children in need. He's handling it admirably. He's obviously working diligently on his case management, but it's something that I would definitely look to increase in the near future if budgeting would allow for it.
Has there been any further discussion with the town on that since that meeting back in April of last year?
If we can just defer until I actually do the upcoming budget, and we
Okay.
can talk about it then. I think it would
fine.
make sense to be a package at that point.
Thank you. Other questions? Operations report. Chapman?
Good evening, Commissioners. From the last meeting in the end of November through today, there's been several noteworthy incidents or investigations. I think most of us are familiar with the unfortunate fatal motor vehicle collision that occurred on January 10th. It's a one-car rollover accident that occurred on Copper Hill Road. Our responding officers were there very quickly, but despite that, they were not able to save a 49-year-old male who was pronounced deceased at the hospital immediately upon arrival there. 28-year-old female was transported as well with non-life-threatening emergencies. That case is being investigated by our officers, Sergeant Nelson, Justin Nelson, who's on the Regional Accident Squad, with assistance from that Regional Accident Reconstruction Squad. Looking towards and going backwards in chronological time, the end of December the 27th, we were happy to have a 2011 felony arrest warrant cleared on a 31-year-old individual out of Hartford. This individual, Mr. Ramos, had been wanted on a warrant for breaking into a home on Spruce Street during June of 2011. He was on our list of investigative efforts during a recent warrant sweep that we previously discussed during July of 2018. He was charged with burglary, larceny in the first degree, and related charges, and he's being held in the Department of Corrections with a $100,000 bond. I do want to point out the diligent work of our staff. This gentleman, this individual is the 5th suspect that's been arrested on felony charges, felony crimes since that warrant sweep back in July. We have a 6th suspect also wanted for breaking into a home, this one on South Grand Street during October of 2017, who's been tracked down to Massachusetts, and he's currently being held, scheduled for extradition back to Connecticut for next month to appear in front of the court on our charges. Continuing on in December 18th, a citizen came in to report that their credit card had been used for 2 very expensive purchases of computers and electronics through the internet. Officers determined through further investigation these items had been delivered to an address in New Britain, Connecticut. As a result of great cooperative efforts with the United Parcel Service, FedEx, and the New Britain Police Department, 3 of our staff went to New Britain and worked with New Britain Police to obtain and execute a search warrant in that city. Multiple electronics, computers, high-value items such as watches were seized at that location. At this point, the preliminary indication is that there have been several identity theft crimes that have occurred in multiple jurisdictions across the state and outside of the state, and this case has been referred to the state police and the FBI for further investigation. Unfortunately, December, we did not go a month without another overdose. We had a fatal overdose on the 15th. 55-year-old female who was found unresponsive. She was transported to the hospital and pronounced dead a short time later. On December 7th, we had a non-fatal overdose, a 21-year-old male who was unresponsive. as can be expected, responding officers and EMS administered medical care, and this individual was transported to a local area hospital for further medical care. Culmination of our arrest activity from the last commission meeting through today. The department has effected arrests for the same type of offenses that we continue to see, and we've reported on 4 arrests for DWI, 12 arrests for family violence crimes, 3 arrests for persons on arrest warrants, and 1 narcotics arrest during this time period. And that brings us to the local traffic authority and traffic concerns update, Chief.
Obviously, we addressed the traffic concerns in the area of equipment. The new cruiser that was discussed at our last meeting has finally arrived. It's at installation down at Town Highway. Unfortunately, this time of year, they're kind of juggling 2 hats between repairing plow equipment and getting our cruiser outfitted. There is no ETA at this point because they're moving the vehicle in and out as they have to move plow equipment in and out. We had an opportunity that was investigated by Sergeant Justin Nelson to purchase 2 new tasers. The 5 we have, we're currently some of them are coming off of warranty. The upgraded replacements were in the realm of $2,500, $2,600. There was a taser, for lack of a better term, lease plan that was long-term that would be nearly $30,000. The current tasers that we have were still in inventory and on discount sale price, so we're able to pick up 2 tasers that we're currently carrying for $2,200. So we're able to address that concern in the short term for the long term. So it's a 2-for-1. The MVTs out in the cars have all been updated by our IT department. We've been working very diligently. And I guess at this point, the last piece of equipment is the radio survey. We had talked previously about the statewide radio program, how effective it would be. Would it be an alternative for us? Peter's been very busy in the last month and a half doing a lot of these odds and ends. He actually had an opportunity to test the radio system firsthand throughout town. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially its coverage was much poorer than our current system. It wasn't a viable solution for us. Nonetheless, I'll be speaking with ACE about a long-term solution, and I have some short-term solutions for our radio dead spots that I'll be addressing during the budget portion of tonight's meetings.
Returning to the operations, the training update, going in the reverse order, starting back in early December. We were able to send 3 officers, including Sergeant Justin Nelson, who was referred to in that correspondence, to crisis intervention training. The week-long course at no cost to us due to funding through Connecticut DEMIS, which enhances police response to mental health crises with a focus on de-escalation, intervention, and problem solving. As we've previously reported out in other commission meetings, we continue to see an increase in calls involving individuals experiencing mental health issues. So these are 3 more staff members that have the benefit of this training. December 6 and 7, as part of our development of supervision leadership, 3 of our 4 first-line and mid-management supervisors attended a commercial sexual exploitation of children and adult domestic human trafficking training at the police academy, again at no cost to us. Recognizing this was a 3-hour block that was offered by the police academy, and recognizing that these crimes of human trafficking are increasing in incidence, sometimes right under our noses. Certainly Windsor Locks has had several. November of 2018, there was an Ellington man arrested for human trafficking. This was an opportunity for us to provide a greater awareness and vigilance to our supervisors. So 3 of the 4 of them had the opportunity to attend that training. Also in early December, the 6th and the 7th, I had the good fortune, the chief sent me to the Police Assisted Addiction and Recovery Initiative, also known as PARI, P-A-A-R-I, National Summit up at Harvard Medical School. It was about 400 officers from across 24 states that we went up there to discuss how police departments are taking on new roles and stemming the tide of opioid addiction. U.S. Surgeon General was there, and other state and local leaders who renewed their commitment and then talked about how they're going to support law enforcement in our frontline efforts to deal with addiction. So that was an outstanding platform, outstanding resources, networking, and it's our intention that we can partner with civic organizations here in town and beyond to hopefully implement some of these ideas. December 28th, Officer Kisselbeck, our school resource officer, attended a 1-day refresher training at Suffield PD, which also included human trafficking, Connecticut juvenile law updates, and social media and internet safety awareness for school resource officers. That was also at no cost to our agency. And then you'll see as we continue on, January 8th, Officer Richards and Sergeant Sean Nelson attended a 1-day street-level interview course interview and interrogation, if you will. The topic area is one of the 5 core curriculum areas that the chief has mandated that we will have advanced classes in. We will strive to get all our officers trained in these areas so that we can hone their skills and provide them and our supervisors these different topics as part of their skill sets. So that occurred on January 8th, and if I can skip ahead to, we'll come to January 22nd in a minute, I'm sorry. We hosted a training here in the department in this very community training room, January 15th through the 19th. That was a crime scene basic investigative photography course. Benefit of us hosting this course, that was attended by 17 police officers from across the region, including Hartford and Manchester, and as far as Milford, Connecticut, was that by being the host agency, we get one of those training seats at no cost. So Officer Reynolds and Officer Fuller both attended, with one seat being at no cost in this crime scene advanced course. Moving to training our public safety dispatcher personnel, January 17th, Dispatcher Webster, Lieutenant Burrell, who currently supervises the Communications Division, and Officer Kisselback, who serves as a desk officer and works as a dispatcher in extra duty functions, all attended a 4-hour dispatch communications training at Stratford PD on active assailant incidents, the telecommunicator's role, and this training simply supplements other active shooter training that other members of the dispatch staff have received already. So talking about January 22nd through 24, Lieutenant Burrell, who has made a point to me that he has expressed interest in 14 years in attending interview and interrogation courses, was given that opportunity, and he's at the Connecticut Police Academy this week participating in an interview course at no cost to the department. We have in that area space behind you under one of those monitors, we have a terminal where officers have been doing in-house collect training. Collect is the mandatory computer information sharing network that all law enforcement and criminal justice systems use in the state. We are doing an online research training here in the building during the month of January. The majority of those shifts, those training assignments have been at no cost. We've scheduled them during duty shifts when extra staffing has allowed for that. I will tell you at the end of December and into the beginning of January, as a training officer, I conducted a review of our dispatcher training of the 4 personnel, the 4 dispatchers, the 2 officers, including Officer Oswicki and Officer Kisselback, and the division commander, Lieutenant Burrell, as to the training that has been attended by them. You'll see that breakdown of those 10 classes, from active shooter to autism awareness to crisis intervention, handling suicidal callers and stress management for dispatchers, mental health first aid, which everyone in the department has been provided, officer-involved shooting study and aftermath, a peer support team training has been provided. In an effort for succession planning and developing staff, public information officer and social media training has been presented to some members of the communications division. And lastly, kind of keeping in the mode with Sergeant Nelson there, we had 2 dispatchers attending veterans-related call-taking, veterans awareness training. So these are the trainings that folks have attended, and you'll see on the right who's attended, who needs to continue, who's remaining in that area. At this time, when this review is done, I also made a request for input from all of our dispatch staff, what training opportunities they would like to see that's specific to their role and duties. This is one review. A similar review will be done of all our sworn personnel in the upcoming months. Back in 2017, we provided a training survey to officers, and we're going to be updating that with what they've attended since then, and be conducting that review. Coming up, training that we'll be talking about in the future, 6 members of our department have to attend the mandatory week-long recertification course for police officer we usually go to departments here in the Capital Region area to keep it cost-effective and keep folks close. That'll be going on February through May of 2019. Regarding that training, we try to schedule officers in the training before they expire, a year before they expire if possible, so we're not sending the majority of the department to training all at one time. Ongoing training that'll be going on internally in the department. Coming up in the next 2 months, Officer Vanek, who is our state certified breath instrument instructor, will be recertifying everybody on the breath analysis machines that are used during DWI arrests. And the employee assistance program resource training will be conducted. The chief and I had the benefit at a department head meeting last month to learn about the EAP platform. There's a computer system. Our folks can go into it, get resources from everything on, wills to family planning to if they're struggling with some type of, anything, any kind of issue. So our peer support officers have been introduced to that, and they will be doing roll call training to bring everyone else up to speed on that, so our folks have supports and referrals available for wellness and resiliency. Because we are grateful that we have a strong relationship with our partner, our sister agency, Enfield PD. In February, we have been invited to attend their internal training, 1 hour block. It's being presented by an assistant state's attorney from the prosecutor's office regarding legal and practical issues in investigating and prosecuting DWI cases, evidence collection, effective report writing, and documentation for both alcohol impaired driving as well as drug impaired driving. That will also be at no cost to us, thanks to the generosity of Enfield PD. Training you're going to hear about coming up. 11 of our staff have to attend medical recertification training in either February or March in Enfield. There's 2 dates, and folks are split up between those so that we can maintain our mandatory emergency medical training that's required of all of our police first responders. Also in March, Officer Scata and O'Toole, who have previously been certified as armorers to service our patrol rifles in-house, so we don't have to go to an outside vendor. They're also scheduled for armorers course on the pistols, the duty firearms that we carry in Manchester, Connecticut. They'll be going. This will allow them to service the weapons, keep our weapons in a high state of readiness and functioning efficiently, and it also provides for succession planning as we move into the future. So we're getting some of our younger staff trained in these areas. Speaking of training and succession planning, March through June, we'll find 3 of our supervisory and command staff attending the different levels of the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Association training. That's an organization that provides continued education for police leadership. Sergeant Justin Nelson will be attending the Supervisor Leadership Institute, which is a course designed for first-line supervisors. Lieutenant Burrell and the chief will be attending the Executive Leadership Institute, which is designed for police executives and command staff. Upon completion of these courses, the lieutenant and the chief will be awarded the FBI Leader Trilogy Award, which is a nationally recognized indication or award that they have completed all 3 levels of this FBI Leader training. No specific date in the future, but Sergeant Justin Nelson, again a member of our Regional Accident Reconstruction Squad, has been tasked the assignment of coordinating motor vehicle accident investigations, trying to find a appropriate training vendor or organization so we can conduct that training here at the PD. Again, with by hosting such training, it provides cost savings to us, as well as provides an opportunity for yet another one of the core curriculum subjects of advanced training courses that the chief has mandated for all our staff to attend. We'll have a much bigger opportunity to put people into that classroom. So that is the training update, unless anyone has questions or concerns.
Right.
Moving on to personnel status. Our recruit dispatcher, Mr. Richard Olmstead, he's continuing his dispatcher field training since joining us on December 10th, 2018. Our embedded DCF, Department of Children and Families, investigative social worker, Keely Lee, is settling well into her new home here at Suffield PD. Chief mentioned the 3 or 4 different cases that Officer Kisselbeck has had of child abuse and neglect, some even being on the buses. She has been instrumental in working not just with our school resource officer, but our other staff on many of these children abuse and neglect allegations. She partners with our officers. She provides her experience, the resources that DCF has, and she's been invaluable just in the short time that she's been embedded here at our police department. Other personnel status updates. We did have another leadership team meeting, supervisory team meeting of supervisor and command staff on December 19th. Topics discussed, you will see there reports by each shift in each unit, all the functions of the department, discussion on the mandated reporter DCF training that we had conducted during roll call in September of 2018, program initiatives, updates, agenda items requested by the staff in advance, and other supervisory topics. That's generally a 4-hour block for supervisor meetings that we hold. Moving on to community policing.
If I can just inject, want to send our well wishes out to Officer Dapkowski, who was injured off duty.
Thank you, sir.
He had some surgery on his leg, and he's expected to be out for the next 4 to 6 months, depending upon how fast he heals. So we wish him well, and we will certainly miss him being here on a daily basis.
Great. Thank you, sir. Community policing, back in November, we collaborated once again with the youth services, Suffield Youth Services, and the local prevention council for an opioid awareness event. I think that was mentioned in the some of the communication. The Chasing the Dragon opioid awareness program is one that has been presented for quite a while by the FBI's community outreach team through the diligent efforts of the Youth Service Bureau and the SLPC. This program was brought to Suffield. And we were proud to obviously attend and support this community awareness event regarding opioids and opioid addiction. Other partners in the community, on December 4th, we joined again with the Foundation of Exceptional Children of Suffield, or FECS as they are known about town. That is our own town grassroots autism awareness and advocacy organization. Chief Brown had the opportunity to go and do some quality time. I don't know if you want to...
I'll just admit, yes, I lost for the second year in a row. I came in dead last for the second year in a row.
I was going to ask you about how you did, but
I will need to practice before I go next year.
So that was bowling night with the kids, and apparently the chief needs to hone his skills before the next one. December 13th, Chief Brown also had the opportunity to appear before the Suffield Social Services Commission. On that date, the chief presented an overview of the recently awarded $1.65 million federal grant that has been awarded to the Suffield Police Department to enhance police and mental health interactions through training, through the placement of an embedded mental health clinician here at our police department, through community awareness campaigns and other initiatives. So the chief was there to bring social services up to speed, as well as to solicit their input and their ability to work with us on that, which they are gladly going to do. On December 19th, we once again had the great opportunity to participate in the annual Suffield Senior Center holiday party. Over 100 folks, senior citizen residents, were in attendance. Chief Brown, Fire Chief Flynn, Chief Grew from the Suffield Ambulance, Senior Center Director Paula Pasco. We're all there serving up this incredible, delicious meal by Suffield Pizza. Got to give them some props. Other folks from the department that attended, I had the good fortune of that opportunity. Dispatcher Morelli, Records Clerk Elizabeth Sagan, Lieutenant Burrell, Officer Kisselbeck, Officer Dabkowski, and Officer Antrim, along with several of our youth police cadets, were all there to serve food. We did not partake in the bingo that followed the meal, but we got to watch residents earn a wide host of prizes. And again, as every year, we have to commend Paula Pasco and Officer Kisselback, who coordinate this event, acquire the resources, acquire these things, and make this holiday event happen. Any questions on community policing events? Thank you. Moving on to funding opportunities. You had previously been reported that we were seeking grant funding. We have been awarded the $6,000 funding that we pursued from the state of Connecticut under the Justice Assistance Grant. We've been awarded the $6,000 from the Office of Policy and Management. This money has been awarded to facilitate us bringing back a police bicycle patrol function here in town, which the town hasn't seen since Officer Oswicki was pushing a bicycle, whenever that may have been. So this funding allows for the purchase of 2 police patrol bicycles, all the necessary equipment that goes along with that. We have 4 previously certified and trained, nationally certified and trained bicycle patrol officers, which you would think that riding a bike is kind of an easy thing, but these folks go to week-long schools and learn how to dismount, learn how to shoot from being on a bicycle, and it's actually pretty intensive training. But we already have 4 officers that have been certified in that, so we're going to use this as a crime response tactic, a crime prevention measure, and certainly a community policing initiative. This will allow us, obviously, to go to places where our police cruisers cannot, particularly the trails, the long miles of trails that we have in this town, and it'll certainly allow us to include bike patrols and town events with the numerous road races, the bicycle races, and events that we have, such as the Suffield on the Green Festival. So that's $6,000 that has been awarded to us. You're familiar already with the $1.65 million awarded to us by the United States Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. We are continuing to work on that effort to divert people with mental health issues or co-occurring disorders such as substance abuse issues away from the criminal justice system and into the appropriate community-based behavioral health care services, as the police department is not necessarily the best place for these folks to be put into. Excuse me. So I have had the good fortune as a project director of working with The other project director, Karen Hanley, Clinical Program Director for Community Health Resources. As you know, it'll be servicing 4 towns. We are the grant holder, but we will be also working with East Windsor, Windsor Locks, and East Granby. There are some stats in here that I don't think you have been exposed to yet of the number of adults in this catchment area of these 4 towns, the almost 3,500 folks with known mental health disorders, the over 1,200 folks with suicidal ideation, the over 3,000 folks with substance use disorders, and the nearly 1,500 adults that have received behavioral health services through DEMIS in 2017. So a couple other things in there. We all unfortunately know of the unprecedented opioid crisis we're facing. Our region has experienced that. Regarding the suicide rates that this grant will be used for, unfortunately, there's 14 deaths according to CDC per 100,000 in the U.S. There's 10 deaths per 100,000 in Connecticut. We, in this 4-town area, have 41 deaths per 100,000 population. So we are over 4 times the state average for suicide in these 4 jurisdictions. So we plan on putting this money to good use. This will also, as you know, focus on services to veterans. As has already been mentioned, that's an area that we strive to work on. We've seen numerous veterans that we've had interactions with. And based on the Center for Veterans Analysis and Statistics, we know the high risk of suicide in the population of Caucasian males, non-Hispanic over the age of 64. We have several with military service, so we are looking to obviously help those folks at risk as well. So those are 2 grants that have been awarded. Some that we are pursuing, the Connecticut Fair Plan, we spoke of this before. That's offered through the Fair Plan Anti-Arson Committee. There'll be a March 2019 award process. We have received funding for equipment in the past from them. We will be pursuing that. We have brokered a deal, if you will. We've brought together the Connecticut Alliance to Benefit Law Enforcement. That's the training provider that gives us all our crisis intervention and mental health training, with the National Center for Mental Health and Juvenile Justice out of New York. The NCM HJJ, if you can say that, is putting in an RFP to the Arnold Foundation. If this is awarded, then Cable and this National Center will have 3 sites in Connecticut to evaluate crisis intervention training for youth. If this funding is awarded, Suffield will be one of these free pilot sites. We will receive the free CITY training, the free CITY train the trainer, and other benefits estimated valued at $30,000. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that these folks get that funding, because it will only benefit us. For the 2nd consecutive year, the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, particularly the Emil P. Zach Public Service Fund, whom this room is named for, came here. They held their community grant opportunity meeting for Suffield civic organizations. The school was in attendance, Parks and Rec, Fire Department, obviously the Police Department. The Emil P. Zach Public Service Foundation is what made this room, these renovations possible. 2017 we were awarded $20,000. 2018 we were awarded, $25,000. 2018 we were awarded $20,000. So we're proud to host them coming in here, and we also anticipate pursuing grant funding for additional police community initiatives that will benefit the community at large. That deadline is in February, so more will be coming on that. Can I answer any questions regarding funding or anything else for anyone?
No, that was very informative.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
So if we all take a deep breath after all that, I'm glad to tell you that the budget is on track. We're actually... We're actually a bit ahead of projections, so we're in good shape. I anticipate, though, that the accumulated accrued time and the officer injury may impact that as the seasons progress. Nonetheless, I think we're on target to meet the goals and expectations of the budget. The animal control budget's a little bit tighter, as it was adjusted mid-year to reflect the now full-time status of 1 animal control officer. Lieutenant Burrell has been monitoring this diligently, and he's anticipating, while there may be an overage in payroll, he may come under in expenses and actually level out by the end of the year. So all in all, I think we're in good shape. Just to skip back to the police budget, I know we had discussed there was a concern about having a substantial overage in gasoline. The town has now negotiated a new price that was substantially lower, so we should actually come in under budget for gasoline for the year. So it was a good job by Debbie Serrato.
Can we just open that?
Yeah, we gotta open the door.
Can I answer any questions about current budget? And then if we'd like to talk about projected budget for next year, we can do that briefly.
I guess my only concern is about the police cruiser. We only have one for this fiscal year,
One for this fiscal year.
and last fiscal year we only had.
One as a result of the issue with CMed where we received 3 years of surprise bills that we had to make accommodations for it within our operating budget. So it cut one car 2 years ago. Last year we were cut to one car, and part of this new budget process will be asking for 2 cars to address the issue.
Okay. Do we have money in that off-duty fund?
I don't have a firm balance, but I believe the town has swept that account for other needs. Emailed to you was a budget packet for the projection for next year. It included an executive summary. In that summary, we're looking at roughly an increase of about 3.92%. The first select woman's office had indicated she was looking for an increase between 2 and 3%. The bulk of that increase is the result of the additional police car. We have to remember that in our expenditure accounts last year, several line items were removed, which reduced our overall budget. So when we add what we were used to previously to the new budget, it now appears to be a much larger increase. In reality, it's a minor increase. If you remove one car, we're actually coming in just under 2% overall. The budget itself I'm referring to as a caretaker budget. As we're all aware that we have an operational review underway here at the police department. Part of that operational review is supposed to address staffing and needs such as the detective, the SRO, how many cars we should have on the road. I would hate to instill a plan, a financial plan for the town, and then have recommendations that were made later on that were contrary or in addition to. So I'd like to do a caretaker budget based on those recommendations and amend the budget once we know what's been recommended. The only changes, or the only reason we have the increases, are really to address immediate needs. So highlights, we have a pending retirement. I left in the budget the ability to hire either a certified officer on a lateral or a new officer to give us the opportunity to decide what would best suit our agency at the time. In R&M Communications, there are some maintenance requirements that need to be done on our current radio system, which I'll get to some of our points we wanted to discuss before. There was concern about dead spots in town, and that's why we investigated the statewide radio system. I have an opportunity, and I've built it into the budget, to actually turn officers' cellular phones into radios. With some equipment, it's about $5,000 in equipment, $6 per officer per month. Their cellular phone works on a Wi-Fi and cellular data basis, so they'd have push-to-talk function on their personal cell phone if they wanted, so I'd have basically 2 radios on them. So if the portable radio didn't work, they could always utilize a cellular phone. I think it's a cheap alternative, and can we decide whether we need to replace the radio system outright, or when our current system reaches end of life or end of service life, and we examine the state system, at least we have coverage until we get to that point. We make a decision whether it's better to move towards the state system or rebuild our current system or regionalize with another town in a larger scale radio system.
Do you put that capital outlay in the ACE budget? Or
So what I'm
is it
actually
small
doing
enough to
is
keep it
part
in?
of the ACE advisory, as I get a little bit further, is I'm going to do an update. Several of my previous projects that have been passed between different departments to be completed are now becoming townwide projects. So I'm not making additional requests this year. What I'm doing is an advisory report to them where I'm going to support our cameras and door locks, which have been 2 years now. Scheduling software, some other things that I placed in are now becoming townwide. I'll say, please, by all means, sweep those accounts, add them to the town projects so that we can benefit as well. The radio system will be an advisory. I know Mr. Stevens was instrumental in the original development of the system we're currently on, to kind of give him the outlay of what it looks like in the future, and that the town needs to either start thinking about replacement of the system or joining with other towns or the state system, and to start setting aside some money because a new radio system is a multi-million-dollar venture. Police cruisers, again, there's a couple issues. Ford, unfortunately, is had some difficulties with the current cruisers. There is a carbon monoxide issue that we address with carbon monoxide detectors in our cars. There was a recall. The carbon monoxide detectors still go off, so that frightens me for the officers. There's also an engine defect, which is well known throughout the industry. Ford will not be doing a recall because it's so far wide in reaching both in the commercial fleets and civilian fleets, and their engine life is now dropping 1 to 3 years. We have 3 cars now that have lost their engines due to this defect. It's taking cars out of service, which means we add mileage to the remainder of our fleet. And when we've been short a car for the last 2 years, it's taking a toll heavily, which translates into additional maintenance costs for the town highway department. Ford has also announced that they're going to redesign the car, which means I need to buy all brand new equipment to fit the car anyhow. And they're going to increase the price as well. So we're at a point where we need to say we're done with Ford. Chevy's offering the Tahoe roughly the same price. Industry-wide standard says they're lasting anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So we have a better engine life. If I have to buy brand new equipment, I might as well buy it, and we don't have to face the carbon monoxide issue. So we can address the mileage, get a better vehicle, what appears to be a better vehicle overall, and properly outfit the patrol officers. And then last but not least, in the community service line item, our cadets for the last several years have done a lot of work for our agency. And I want to recognize them to some extent. I want to make sure they're properly outfitted, so I've made an increase to the community service line item for the cadet program. I'm going to be asking for an additional $2,500 to make sure they have the proper uniform and equipment. If they're going to spend that time and effort to help us, the least we can do is take care of them. And then finally, the ACE request, which we discussed, which would be advisory to them. And once again, we have this operational study completed, perhaps there'd be recommendations within that study that would be ACE requests.
Thank you.
Again,
Old business.
if I can just finish off, the meeting for the first selectman is next Tuesday. So if you have questions in the meantime between now and next Tuesday, or you want to attend the meeting next Tuesday with me, you're more than welcome, and please feel free to reach out to me by phone or email, and I can address or answer any questions.
Thank you. Old business.
Can we motion the
I don't have my cheat sheet, Karen, tonight, so thank you. Jackie?
Make a motion to accept the department reports and the chief's reports as presented.
Second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Thanks, Jack. Old business. New business. Discussion on communications within the police commission. Jason?
Good evening. Over the past couple of years, I've noticed several communication problems within our police commission. My goal is to resolve these communication issues so that we can be more productive and can work together. To begin with, why was the police department staff, chief, captain, and administrative secretary not involved with the agenda for tonight's meeting? The process has always been for the chairman to work with the department staff to prepare a meeting agenda, send it to the commissioners, and then submit to the town clerk. By circumventing the process, Chairman Pasco violated the bylaws for the Suffield Police Commission under Article 4, Section 3, which states, "The chair shall consult with staff on preparation of commission agendas." The administrative secretary sent out our monthly packet and did not have a meeting agenda to send. This is a violation of our bylaws and is unacceptable. My next concern involves communication for special meetings. Following the special meeting on January 3rd, Commissioner Stromowski and I requested that Chairman Pasco schedule another special meeting. We had additional concerns, comments, questions, and we wished to further the discussion. Chairman Pasco told me that it was his sole prerogative to call for special meetings. I would like to point out Article 8, Section 7 of the Suffield Police Commission bylaws, which states, "The chair or 4 members of the commission may call a special meeting." Chairman Pasco refused to call for another special meeting regarding the possible litigation and operational study when several commissioners wanted another meeting. I am extremely disappointed in his lack of leadership on this matter. I can't help forget last year when we all collectively voted in favor to make Commissioner Pasco the chairman, some voting against party lines in what we felt was the best nonpartisan decision. Another communication issue involves placing items on the meeting agenda. I previously requested that several items be added to the agenda for tonight. Chairman Pasco refused to add 2 of the items. The first one, labeled Discussion on Police Commission Annual Report to the Board of Selectmen, was not added because he did not know what it was. Under Article 6, Section 1, our bylaws state that the Commission shall submit an annual report in writing to the Board of Selectmen. I believe this is an important requirement clearly outlined in our bylaws that needs to be completed. The second item Chairman Pasco refused to add to the agenda was labeled Executive Session, Continued Discussion on Possible Litigation. This is an important topic that cannot be omitted for numerous reasons. Currently, Chairman Pasco refused to call another meeting and refused to place the item on tonight's agenda. Chairman Pasco is violating Robert's rules by refusing to add items to the agenda. Robert's rule states it is wrong to assume, as many do, that the chairman sets the agenda. It is common for the chairman to prepare a proposed agenda, but that becomes binding only if it is adopted by the full assembly, perhaps after amendments as just described. Is there any reason why you refuse to place items on the meeting agenda? The next item of concern relates to email communications. Other police commissioners and I were recently instructed to stop sending group emails because they may be subject to Freedom of Information, FOI. These emails did not contain any sensitive information and were merely a request for scheduling an additional meeting. Email is our main form of communication, and I will continue to use it. If someone makes a valid FOI request and it is granted, I will gladly provide my email because I have nothing to hide. Another predicament we are facing is the withholding of information by Chairman Pasco. I have recently learned about several ongoing items that Chairman Pasco has been working on, and other commissioners were not informed. Some examples are the detective position, recent email communication with the police union in town about the operational study, and most importantly, information about the possible litigation. Under the Suffield Police Commission bylaws, Article 4, Officers and Duties, the chairman is not given any additional powers over any of the other commissioners. The chairman is only given additional duties such as putting together the agenda and running meetings. I believe collaboration and communication with each commissioner could make us more effective since we all bring different knowledge and experiences. We have an engineer, a professional writer and cartoonist, CPA, a marriage attorney, and a member with almost 40 years DOT experience, and the list goes on. For this commission to function effectively, we need to be made aware of any and all information. I truly hope that we can put our differences aside and begin to work together for the best interests of the police department, all the members of the police department, and the town. Going forward, it is my expectation to be appraised of all matters concerning the Suffield Police Department. That's it for me.
I would like to concur with Jason in all those feelings, everything that he's put down. I feel members of this commission have been shut out of much of the decision-making process of things that we should be a part of, and we haven't been. And it preceded Ken, and now it's starting again, and I don't feel comfortable with it. And I agree with Jason's sentiments in the statement he just read.
Can I see it?
Not at this time, because I have additional information in here, but I can give you a copy.
No, I would like to, if I'm able to respond,
You can respond.
I'd like to see what I'm responding to. 'Cause it was
Not
so
at,
long.
not at this time, because I have other information in here.
Derek Donnelly, Town Attorney. If I could just address a couple of points in there, just so we're clear on them. The direction that I've given to the commission in the past to not correspond by email is not unique to your commission. It's the exact same advice I give to every commissioner. There are freedom of information issues that come into play, and there's a series of decisions by the Freedom of Information Commission that say when public business is starting to be done via email, that constitutes an illegal meeting. Okay? So the direction I give to every commission in this town is the same. If information is being disseminated by the chairman via email, the chairman can do that. Okay? If there's a scheduling issue, chairman says, listen, we're not holding the meeting this week because of such and such, that can happen. When there's a response to that email and there's a back and forth dialogue, that becomes under the Connecticut Freedom of Information Commission's interpretation of the rules, that becomes a meeting, okay? And meetings need to happen in the public. That's the point of the Freedom of Information Act. So, I will continue to advise that the back and forth dialogue, I know it doesn't make any sense in this day and age. I know that's how I communicate with people, that's how I communicate with clients, that's how we all do business nowadays. But when it comes to the public's business, I have to continue to advise everyone on the commission not to engage in a dialogue via email. That dialogue can happen in public, and certainly should. I encourage, and I've given this advice, again, this is not unique to the police commission, I've given this advice many times. If you have thoughts on email correspondence that come out, jot them down, draft that email, but don't send it. Bring it to the next meeting, and find a way to talk about it in public. Because we can't be having these dialogues behind the scenes. And again, I probably have this discussion with the Board of Finance annually. The Board of Selectmen regularly. This is very important and very consistent.
Well, Derek, let me respond to that. I take your opinion and I take your legal counsel, and that's taken. I agree with that. But what I'm talking about is not discussion about specific facts and circumstances or cases or anything like that. We're just talking about requests for meetings and just being shut out of any and all email communication.
So there are some contexts that you can work in the law, within the confines of the law. So, for instance, it is not a violation of FOI if party members caucus together. Okay, so and that can include via email. So members, small groups. I forget the specific. I think we're a 3-3 or maybe a 4-2 split on this commission. Your individual caucus, even if that supersedes the quorum number in your bylaws, you can email and correspond and plan or meet separately and discuss what the agenda. The chairman can meet with, can always communicate with people individually. You are certainly perfectly welcome to email individual members to discuss individual items that may be coming up on the agenda. The problem becomes when all of you together participate in the dialogue. The Freedom of Information Commission says that's a meeting. So it's a problem for us from a liability standpoint. If first of all, people then can FOI, can send a request for your personal emails. That's something that from a liability perspective, I try to avoid at all costs. Number one, and number two, if somebody does raise an issue with correspondence going back and forth, that becomes a finable offense under the Freedom of Information Act, should a complaint be filed with the commission. So my job, is to prevent those things from being filed. And again, the advice is the same from every commission.
We weren't discussing anything. We were just calling for a meeting, and we were being responded to, no, we're not going to have a meeting. I don't understand how that could be any kind of violation of the Freedom of Information or an illegal meeting, or by your definition. That's the essence of what we were trying to discuss, trying to call a meeting. We weren't discussing any specifics. We were saying, we would like to have a meeting on this. And we were being told, no, we're not going to have a meeting on this. And then you jumped in and said, you guys are having a meeting. This is illegal.
Right. It doesn't matter what the conversation. You could, if all of you together email and say, the sky is blue, and somebody responds and says, no, it was pink this morning when the sun rose.
So when Ken sends an email to us and says, we're going to have a meeting at this date, and someone responds and says, you know what, I'm going to be out of town that date, could we move it another time? That's an illegal action.
Technically, under the rulings of the Freedom of Information Commission, yes. Now, if you get that information and respond individually to the chairman and say, Mr. Chairman, can we do it another date? I'm out of town that time. That's okay. It's the correspondence among all of you that's the problem.
It wasn't all of us. It was 3 of us. It was three of us. It wasn't all of us. It was three of us having this conversation.
Okay. I think the one I responded to was for everyone. I don't think I was on one with you. I'm usually pretty quick to check on who's getting the email, but if I made a mistake there, that would be wrong.
I only got
Again,
emails.
It's the entire commission that's the issue.
I think we're just dancing around it a little bit here because I'm bringing points out, but I got to dance around it because of our executive session and things I can say and can't say. So I'm getting my point out there, but I'm being very cautious about how I say my points.
Yeah.
I'd like to address it if I could. Oh, go ahead, you can finish the point.
Sure. The other question was just the calling of the meeting. Okay. Let's put aside the bylaws for a second. The bylaws don't matter here. What matters is what the state statute says, and the state statute does allow two people to call, there are two ways to call a police commission. Okay. It's specific to the police commission. I think the fire commission also has similar rules. But under 7275, the chairman can call a meeting, okay, or a majority members of the board can call a meeting. So if a special meeting is desired by a majority member of the board, the majority members can get together and essentially establish an agenda and call a meeting. Okay.
How do we do that outside of sending emails to each other to call a meeting? Do we have to drive to their house and say, hey, let's have a meeting? I mean, that seems kind of a little...
Listen, I'm telling you what the law is. I'm not telling you it's right.
At least the law mirrors our bylaws.
It does.
So I said bylaws, but I guess state statute 7275 too. I mean,
Right. It's very similar. So if the chairman, so to get to the agenda point, the way a meeting is called is agenda being published. The agenda is filed with the town clerk. That's how we establish a meeting. So the chairman may do that, and the chairman has the prerogative to decide what's on that agenda, regardless of what Robert's rule says, because the statute says the chairman can call a meeting.
Could you give me that statute, just what that is?
It's 7-275.
so you're saying that state statute supersedes our bylaws?
Yes. So the hierarchy of municipal law is federal, state statute, the charter of the town, the ordinances of the town, and then the bylaws.
So I don't want to be a jerk now, but state statute says that we're going to have 3, 5, or 7 commissioners, but our bylaws and town charter says 6. So here we have 6.
We're actually talking about there's
No,
going to be some increase.
the reason you have 6 is because when this police commission was established in I forget what year it was in 45 or 47, it was by special act of the legislature. So they created a police commission with 6. Then they changed the law in 49 to allow 3, 5, or 7, but we already had it based on the special act. So,
But the law changed and we didn't. That's all I'm saying.
no, you're right because we were a creation of a special act, not because we were a creation under the statute. It's a huge pain in the neck. I sent you an email today,
Okay.
letting
Thank you.
you know that we have reached. You brought this issue actually to our attention a while ago. The first selectman has reached out to Tammy Zalesowski and has asked her to introduce legislation that would permit us to expand the police commission. We're in a very unique situation. There are very few towns that had a special act creating a police commission and didn't have a police commission created under the statute passed in 49. So we're hoping to address that issue. There absolutely should be another member of this police commission, and you're absolutely right. On its face, our police commission does not meet the minimum requirements of the statute because of how it was created.
Well, yeah, it should either be minimized or expanded, not
Exactly.
not necessarily just expanded. But
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I think that's what would have to happen was we'd have to have legislation that would be passed to allow us to amend or to adopt the special act as an ordinance, and then we could amend it and do one of those, either adjust accordingly so there were the right members. The fire commission is in the exact same position. There's also 6 members because of how it was created. But going back, and I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent. I'm a talker. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that if the members get together and decide to call a meeting, if a majority of members, so in this case it would be 4, decide to call a meeting, you can set the agenda in any way you want, because that's what calling the meeting is. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact that there is a statute that governs here that's important for everybody to understand. And perhaps, some of the correspondence we had, or I had with the commission, was not very clear on that, so I wanted to make that clear. If you have questions on it, I'm happy to discuss that.
Derek, you're talking about a member can email another member. It seems what's happened here is the communications come out to forwarded to 6 members and a couple other names on there too, I think. So then what happens is a member wants to comment on that. So he takes that email with all those things on it, makes a comment to it, and forwards it back out. He may basically want it to go, let's say, to the chairman, but because all these other things are in there, all of us are in there, it becomes a complete list. It becomes the total members. Are you saying that if, let's say, he wants to ask me, or he wants to ask Ken, if he just does an email from himself to Ken, that certainly shouldn't be a problem.
Correct.
He just has to not reply all.
Right, yeah, that's why
He could even reply to 2 people,
Yeah.
as long as it's not reply all.
But I think most of it's been coming out, it ends up, that's the way it comes out to us from here, and that's the way it makes it pass around, and everybody, gets it. Those that want to reply, the rest of us get the reply. And that's, I guess, like having a meeting.
Right. And listen, I don't want to lose sight of another point here. I have spent a lot of time in my short tenure as town attorney going to other commission meetings and having some of these discussions and FOI trainings. And we have not done that specifically with the police commission. That's, I get directed in certain places. Unfortunately, I tend to be at the Board of Selectmen meetings on Wednesday nights when they conflict with the police commission. So we do have pretty good training that we put together that we've done broadly for other commissions. I'd be happy to do that for you at an additional meeting sometime if you wanted to schedule it. I think that stuff is helpful. The FOI laws in Connecticut, like this email issue, are not necessarily in line with how we do business in 2015.
I think I can clarify also Rick's concern. Rick, when you said, if I can't email the group, how can I determine if there's a majority about a meeting? You can, you just have to email everybody individually or in small groups. You can still try to get a majority, you just can't do it on a group-wide email. Just pull people either individually or in small groups, and that would resolve the issue as well.
Which is what I did. To clarify, Rick and I had a conversation via phone. Rick's comment was asking for a second executive session meeting, and my first response probably was something around, no. I mean, I don't remember what the response was, but it was definitely not, oh yes, let's go have another meeting.
The general feeling was no.
No, I don't know what I actually said, Rick, but at the advice of I think it was Derek, but there was no meeting. But I thought about it. I told you at the end of the conversation, let me think about it, which I did. And I polled everybody on the board. I called everybody individual. I tried to give them exactly the same information that you and I talked about, as best as I could. And the polling of the board was 4-2. So at that, I was not going to call a meeting.
Well, my error was not.
But excuse me one
No,
second.
go ahead.
But as I think Derek said, you can make a motion from the floor to go into executive session or do it, add an item. That's the second option.
Why did you advise, can I just ask you, why did you advise him not to have the meeting? He said you advised, can I just put that together? You said Derek advised you not to have the meeting, well, why? Or did I misunderstand?
No.
I didn't hear that.
I
You didn't hear that?
I
Okay.
did hear him say that.
I thought I
I
did.
would not characterize that as specifically my advice without going into attorney-client issues.
Okay.
I can't tell you what I advise.
It's awful legal though, isn't it?
So, those conversations I had. And yes, Ben, I called you back and said, or I don't know if I called you back. It's been a whirlwind of time, and no, I'm sorry. I did. I know exactly what I said. I sent an email back out to everybody saying just that. I would like to know what I could.
Could I just respond to that?
Sure.
Probably when you polled the members of the commission, you gave your perspective. My mistake was not calling each member of the commission and giving them my perspective of why we should have a meeting. You gave them the perspective of why we shouldn't have a meeting, or why your reasons for not having a meeting. But my mistake was not polling the rest of the members to try to convince them to vote. So that was my error.
I tried to take yours and Jason I talked to at the end. I tried to take our comments or our conversation and relay that as best as I could to the other commissioners. Jason was the last one I talked to, just based on timing and schedules, and I don't know if it was Christmas or, what was the next point in the first paragraph there?
Which one?
I'm not sure.
So the first one was about the agenda tonight and how.
Oh, sure, certainly.
And how like it didn't go through the police
Yep.
department.
No, is the agenda, Ms. Dorian forwarded that to me, I want to say, as a reminder, 9, 10 o'clock. And I had received yours. You had some comments for some additions. That the time of that was 9:23, the day before. I didn't see that till later in my emails. You had 4 items, 5 items. I added everything but 2. As you say, you asked about an annual report, and in the last 2 years, I don't recall being involved in an annual report. Now I understand we're talking to Chief tonight. It's something that, excuse me one second, it's something that the Chief has prepared, as he said, the last year. Chief Riello prepared it the year before, and I can't remember
And
who did
then
it.
Kevin Armada did it the year before that, so.
So it's a report that gets done. Fortunately or unfortunately, we've had it prepared by other people. So thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it. But
I mean, I just
That
don't
was-
see why we wouldn't put it on the agenda, but okay.
If I may, on the report. Yes, a report goes in for the, what is it, annual program, or whatever it is. And it's been, the practice is, I've known for a long time, is that the reports, because the report that they're gonna put out, they don't want umpteen pages from each commission, so they want a brief, let's call it a synopsis of the year or something like that. And in the past, the chief's office has got those facts together and presented to the commission that he's got it together, shows it to us, and we say, send it. Do we sit down and write it? No, because most of the facts that are gonna go in it, and I'm sure the chief can tell you what goes in it, because he's had it for a while. But it isn't something that, well, I think you said maybe Kevin did it, or something like that. But in my experience, it's always been, the chief's office gives us a synopsis or something to go by.
When you,
And we either may say, well, let's add this, or do we need this, or something like that. And then it goes, so yes, the commission is advised of it, and we know of it before it goes in.
Yeah, I was only asking that it be put on the commission's agenda so that we could discuss it tonight. That's
Well,
all.
it isn't something that we ever, like I say, it's an annual thing that has to be done, and the commission, 6 members, have assistance of the chief and the captain and whoever they might be, and they, and the secretary, administrative assistant, so they put the things together for us to, you know, kind of what's wanted up the street, and it's in there.
so back to the agenda. The agenda came, the reminder agenda came in.
It originally came in on Friday, too.
Oh, no, you sent it to me Friday, and then you sent a reminder to me on whatever, a day before ago. And I'm fully aware of it. I know it has to get out by 4 o'clock. And in talking with, I'd asked Melissa, she says, no, it doesn't technically have to be out till 7 o'clock, but I wasn't sure late after, 24 hours before the meeting posted, is my understanding. So by 4 o'clock, I had the agenda done. Karen had sent over the draft agenda. I added your 4 points, or your whatever points that I was going to add to it. And then I scrambled to get it back out to the town to get it posted. So it was sent to Karen, and it was sent to Kathy Dunai. Well, but unfortunately, it never got to Kathy Dunai because I used the old SuffieldTownHall.gov, whatever that email extension was. Karen sent me a reminder notice, which I got about 4 o'clock or 4:10. I promptly called Kathy and said, hey, did you get this? I know why you didn't get it, because of this. I said, let me send you another copy. Sent her another copy. It was marked draft. She couldn't take draft off it, so I figured out how to take the draft off, got it back to her by 4:30 so she could post it. She said she was going to send it out to everybody this morning. So it was timing. It was probably my fault for letting it go till 4 o'clock, but it got out promptly posted, and 4 out of 6, 3 out of 5 of your requests were on. The annual report thing, I don't know when it's due, but if you would like to put it on for next week, I'll put it on next month.
That's not the major.
And I said, the executive session, nope, I spoke to Derek, and his advice was, leave it off. What am I missing on those?
So,
The annual report, executive session.
yeah, so I'll go to the next one.
Just bear with me 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah,
Working in law enforcement, as a member of law enforcement, all we have is credibility. And that's all we have. And just understand that sometimes perception becomes reality. And that in this thing, my perception is this is the first time in a year that I've asked for anything to be on the agenda. And this is the first time to date that I know you as the chairman has circumvented the police department, like I said, in violation of our bylaws, and not included chief, captain, and administrative secretary, and went to town hall and then had the meeting posted. I got an issue with that.
There's no circumvention.
There is if you don't involve them.
I've got, Jason, I got the pro forma agenda for everything but yours. Everything but you wanted.
Happens to be a big ticket item.
Which one? What?
The litigation, the possible litigation that you refused to put on the agenda.
I did, at the advice of counsel. Everything else was preset for me by Karen. So
the next thing was about the special meetings. We already discussed that. The placing items on the agenda, we just discussed that. Email communications, we discussed that. Then the next thing was just the withholding of information, that about several ongoing items that have been going on, and like 2 of them are on here for tonight at my request, the dispatcher position and the detective position. But just basically, all the commissioners need to be on the same page. We're not on the same page. there's stuff and information being passed along and things happening behind the scenes, and I'm finding out through different venues. I shouldn't be. I should be hearing it. We should all be on the same page, and I think that's the job, one of the jobs as the chairman, is to keep us all in the loop of what's going on. And so that's my request, is that for us to be effective, that we need to collaborate together. We need to be on the same page. We need to know what's going on. Our input matters, every single one of us. And like I said, we all come from different walks of life. That's what makes this commission valuable. And if we're not being used, then one, it's wrong, and two, it's not making us as effective as we could be.
Okay, let's talk about, let's skip to, if we could, to one of your items, the detective position.
Sure.
Okay. The detective position is,
I mean, it is on the agenda if you want
It
to
is. No,
discuss it.
you-
when we get to it.
with respect to the detective position, there are discussions that are underway as part of the settlement process of a union grievance that is currently being negotiated at the first selectman's level. At the invitation of the first selectwoman, I attended two meetings with her, Jeff Miner and the second with Chief Brown. She had previously asked for my thoughts regarding the detective position. My impressions from both meetings with Sergeant Miner is that they were both positive, and conversations with Sergeant Miner were both respectful and productive. But this is a settlement process of a union grievance that is at the selectman level that she asked for input. Now, she asked for input, not,
Good point. Input. You're one person. We're an entire commission. Input means the entire commission, not one person.
She
The
asked-
chairman has no additional powers and duties. I don't care what she asks. We as the commission need to act as a commission. That's all I'm saying. It's not one person. It's not just Jason Trombley. It's not Ken Pasco. We are the Suffield Police Commission. You are not, Tom Selleck and you're not the commissioner.
I wish I was him.
Yeah,
He's a good
yeah,
looking
he's
guy.
handsome.
Can I just read the statute of that regarding that? The powers of police commissions and police review boards in Connecticut. Municipal police commissions shall have general management and supervision of the police department, make all needful regulations, may prescribe penalties for the violation of any such regulation, including suspension or removal from office of any officer, member of such police department, have the sole power of appointment, promotion, and removal of officers under such regulation as it adopts. We're not being part of this process. We're not being included on these discussions. We should be included as a commission.
And I feel it's hurting not only the town, we still don't have a detective. This is what's keeping things from moving along. I have limited information, not firsthand knowledge, so, it's all hearsay at this point for me, but the information that I've been given about where the detective process is right now, it doesn't even make sense to me about the years and the requirements and all these different things, but maybe if you had the input of different people here, maybe things would be differently. That's all I'm saying.
There's also another point that needs to be made, that we are asked to vote on some of these things, and we have incomplete information. We're not part of the process at all, and our names are attached to these things, and we've had no say in it. And if anything had gone wrong, or anything that legally we could be liable for, our names are attached to this, and we had no input on it. That to me is, I don't want to be put in that position. I want to be informed on everything that this is decided regarding this department. That's why I was voted into this office. Why have a commission if all the commissioners are not going to be participating? That I don't understand, and I don't understand how that can be allowed.
Well, this
Answer
is
that question.
This is correct me if I'm wrong, this is a grievance process, so it's already been through executive staff, the police commission, and now it's up to the town. Is that not correct?
It's at the first selectwoman's level.
So it's beyond us already. No? Am I missing something?
As far as I'm concerned, the grievance was settled. Contract language was put in that once the department is up to a certain level of staffing, that the detective position will be filled. Now it's just a matter of coming to terms of how this detective position is going to be instituted, fairly and equitable. Correct? And you, one person, is involved with the first selectman in doing this. When you have 5 other people on this commission and a chief of police and a captain that are not a part of this process, I got an issue with that. I want a detective. We need a detective. So we need to get there. And just two people doing this is not going to get us there. Jack, I made my point.
You know, I hate to use the excuse of past experience. But this department has gone through a lot of things in the time I've been here. We have never, we don't use, let me use the term, we are not here to micromanage. The department has a job to do. We are here to oversee it. Everything that you just mentioned, Rick, comes through us. Hiring, firing, interviewing, it's all through the commission, all right? Now, in between time, if there's a proposal being put together by the upper management as to what format shall be used, and you got to take, when you take that format, they also have to take what's in the union thing too, because they can do one thing and you say, oh, you can't do that. But I've never had a situation, and right up to this day, I've never had a situation when the upper management or administration of the department did not bring those things to us.
It's not the administration. I'm talking about the chairman of the police commission.
But
In town hall.
who does our work? Do we go in and pick the people and tell the chief, hey, we're gonna hire this person?
You raise a good point. Our administration should be doing the work. They're our staff. They should be doing the work.
Yes.
Correct. They're not. That's what I'm talking about.
They're not doing the work?
They're being circumvented by the town hall and by the chairman.
Doing what work?
I mean, everything you just said, you said everything you know is based on hearsay. I don't even know what you're talking about is the problem, because you just said everything I'm talking about is based on hearsay.
Well,
What are
that's
we supposed to do with
good.
hearsay?
Good question, Dara. That's why I
Dara.
Dara. Okay, Dara. That's why I recommended that it be brought up in executive session tonight so we could discuss the detective position in executive session, but he chose to put it under new business. So I can't discuss things that regarding personnel matters in open session.
Even if you were in executive session, even if you were in executive session, you're saying it's all based on hearsay, which is essentially a rumor. So I don't know. I don't know how we're supposed to judge any kind of credibility based on a statement of hearsay.
Well, it's not hearsay anymore because Ken Pasco just confirmed that he had 2 meetings with the first select woman, members of the police department, and that he's been trying to facilitate this detective position. The last thing I knew was that we don't have a detective and we want one. Now I hear about all this stuff, and like I said, it's all hearsay because it's behind the scenes, but he just confirmed it. He just confirmed that all these conversations are happening, and here we are still today with no detective. I don't know what there's not to understand.
We're 6 members, and out of 6 members, 1 has access to a lot of hearsay. Is it staff hearsay? Is it hearsay from the street? What is it? We have 6 members that are trying to do a job here, and we have never, anything that you just mentioned is required by us to do, it's come through the commission. The staff work of it is done beforehand. They'll cut that, in other words, let's say that...
This operational study did not come through this commission at all.
No, it didn't come through it at all.
But it was
because
placed in,
made
it was
by
a
the
public
first
notice
selectman's
saying,
office.
there was a public notice saying that it did, and it didn't.
Well, we're stuck.
That's untrue.
We're stuck on communication. I mean, wait till I get to that one.
My name is attached to this study, that we were consulted. We were not consulted. We were told it was a fait accompli. We were never given any opportunity to give input on this and the ramifications of this study and what it means and what it looks like to other departments, to the town, and anyone else involved in this. We were not given the opportunity to get feedback on that. It was done. We were told it was going to be done. It says in the minutes, the special meeting, no vote was taken. We didn't take a vote on this.
May I ask Derek a question?
Sure.
Derek, could you clarify for us, this is the police commission, But who's the overall administration?
Sure. The problem is, I provided everyone with, provided the chairman with thoughts on this. I believe he distributed it to everyone. Again, the charter gives the first selectman powers, certain powers to coordinate employee matters across departments. And those are very specific in the charter. And I don't have that opinion in front of me.
I have it in front of me. It says, in matters requiring consistency and coordination across town departments and their employees, the first selectman shall have executive authority in consultation with any respective board or commission over town employees for such matters. We were not consulted.
Well, the definition of consulting is
The
not
definition of consulting I have here.
the charter. The charter is consulting is not there.
The legal definition of consulting, you're going to tell me if I go out and buy a car and come home with it, tell my wife, oh, I just bought a car, I was consulting with her? Because that's what happened with us.
What I'm going to tell you is that in practice in the town, on employee-related matters, where a board or commission has a certain authority over an individual body, that the first selectman in practice has consulted that body by discussing the issue with the board. And that has happened in
Discussing the issue with the board after the fact?
that has happened in other departments.
After the fact? After an action is taken? Because she hired this firm to do this already. Because the lawyer was in with us. He was sitting with us.
Can I comment something, or
If
do I
I-
have to stay out?
No, I'm just.
If I may,
How
one
you
second.
can define that? How? Well, I want Derek to
One
answer
second.
that.
I do not believe she finalized the thing until after we got from her, because they entered the agreement.
You don't believe that?
They discussed it, but it was finalized after the meeting was over.
Is that true?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think it was. It was already done. It was a done deal. It was brought to us that Derek Taylor was hired. He was brought in. He said he's going to be doing this.
My understanding is it's exactly as Jack happened, but I can't sit here and tell you that I have any actual knowledge of that. I wasn't at your meeting. This is being handled by Labor Council. We separate the town side, the labor and employment issues with the general legal matters for the town, because individual employees have to be able to seek legal advice from me. So I don't handle any of the labor issues. So I don't have specific knowledge about that. I think those are questions that are better addressed to the first selectman.
Just from a legal standpoint, all I will say is that it is routine a lawyer is consulted with. Any lawyer has a consultation before they are retained. So being consulted as a lawyer and being retained are two separate issues.
Here's what we're talking about. Something. This says, in consultation with any prospective board or commission.
I understand. I'm responding to your statement that he had already been hired and it was a done deal. What I'm telling you is definition of done deal could be something different, because you can have a consultation with a lawyer and not retain the lawyer. And then there's a process and a retainer agreement by which a lawyer is actually retained. So again, I just was responding to your comment about it being a done deal. We don't know that because we don't know when he was officially retained.
But this commission was not consulted at all about this action at all. We were told it was being done. We had no input regarding whether this was good or not. We were told it was done.
What Jack said is that we don't know when it was actually done.
Ken would
That-
know.
isn't that- isn't
Ken,
that-
you would know.
Isn't that
Come
beside?
on.
Isn't that
You would
beside the
know
point?
if they were consulted.
We weren't consulted.
You would know. That we don't have to say we don't.
Why don't you
we
just
know.
tell us, were they all consulted
Jesus.
or not? You must have been.
It sounds like it was you and the first select person.
No.
God, cut through it.
Yeah, at least tell us what happened, because this is dancing, and it's very
Yeah,
frustrating for
sure
me
it
out
is.
here. I know we're not supposed to talk, I get that.
I know.
But
No.
this is the most frustrating conversation I've
Excuse me one
listened to.
second. Excuse me.
Again, the practice has been that the first selectman discussing a matter with the board in executive session meets the definition of consulting under the charter. I've given that advice in the past. I'm telling you that that was advice that the chairman asked me, and I provided that opinion to you, you will have that opinion. So
So you're saying you're splitting a hair in order to make this thing in your mind right, or in the first selectmen.
Rick, I'm not doing anything.
Well,
I'm telling you the opinion that I gave, that I've consistently given to other boards and commissions. Our charter, for lack of a better term, sucks. It does not define a number of very important things. It does not go into great detail. If you look at any other charter in the state of Connecticut, many of them provide much more specific detail about what's required and what isn't. So we're left with interpreting what's there against state statute and against practice. And what I'm telling you is the practice has been for the first selectman to consult the board that oversees an individual department, have a discussion with them, make decisions.
I would like to know the legal definition of consulting.
It's not defined in the charter. So there's not a legal definition of consulting.
So it could mean anything. It could mean anything you want it to mean, depending on what your motive is to get something done.
Pick up Webster's dictionary.
That's what I did.
Pick a definition, right? So that's the problem when terms are undefined in laws.
Well, we were not consulted at all. From the Webster definition, we were told this was done. We were not asked whether this is a good idea. We were never consulted or asked, what are the ramifications of this? This is one of the reasons I wanted a second meeting.
Well,
So we didn't have to do this in this meeting. But
Rick, I sat at the same meeting you did, okay? And in listening to what was said, yes, the first select woman had, because she had concerns, she did it with another agency and she was gonna do it with this agency, and she thought there was time for this type of a study. She came to that meeting, which she has every right to do. She's a, what do you call it, ex officio member. She came there and she told us this is what she was proposing to do. She had the consultant there to answer questions for all of us. We all ask questions. I ask questions. I think it's fair to say maybe all six didn't ask questions, but I asked questions. And as a result of that, we didn't take a vote because you don't take votes at executive, at these things. I forgot the name of it.
executive session.
Executive session's sake. But as a result of that, she accepted the input as being a positive thing, and you asked questions of her, you asked questions of her, I asked questions of her. I think you did too. I think you asked too. Anyway, even if we didn't ask, we got answers because somebody else asked questions. And it was after that that a decision was made to go ahead with the proposal from the consultant and enter into an agreement.
I disagree with you. I totally disagree with you. That may be your interpretation of what happened. That's not what my interpretation of what happened.
If we're on to
That's why I asked 24 hours later, we need to talk about this some more. Because we were not given complete information. We were not.
Are you opposed to a study to review the productivity or whatever the statute is?
I'm opposed to a study that is being authorized on my name when I had no input on it. Because that sets a precedent for the first select woman to do whatever she wants using legal gymnastics and undefined definitions to do things that she doesn't trust this commission to do.
I don't believe that it's not trusting the commission. I think it was something.
Sure feels that way.
There's time. Listen,
That's your interpretation.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's all of ours. And I know we're not supposed to talk, but we're trying to tell you by sitting here that when we're listening to this and we're hearing two different remembrances of something that happened, we're telling you that we see the same thing. We see that there's a very, very dysfunctional group up there, that the communication here is horrific. I can't imagine what it is when the first selectman now is having consultations with all of you in your name, and you don't really feel that that was a consultation, but that was a directive. And that's dangerous. And it's deja vu all over again. And this is why we're here, and we're going to be here every stinking month, because this,
We went
again.
through it once, and it's
And
not
I've
time
been
to do
Pardon
it.
me.
listening to this for
Pardon
the
me.
better part of an hour.
Excuse me a second. We changed the agenda.
No, we're not talking about that.
Nancy, we changed the agenda at your request to put the public to comment at the end. We'll get to that.
If were we on to update of the operational study?
Sure.
Okay, all right, I got something to read. Following the special meeting, which included the possible litigation and operational study, I am extremely concerned by the process being taken by the First Selectman's office. While executive sessions are confidential and I cannot discuss the details, I can voice my opposition to the process by which the First Selectman's office, town attorneys, and Chairman Pasco took to discuss a possible litigation and operational study. There are only 5 exceptions to hold executive sessions, and discussion of an operational study is not one of the exceptions. This needs to be done in open session. This involves town taxpayer money, and taxpayers have the right to know. The town attorney stated that the First Selectman has the authority to conduct such a study, citing the town charter, which says, quote, "On matters requiring consistency and coordination across town departments and their employees, the First Selectman shall have executive authority in consultation with any respective board or commission over town employees for such matters," end quote. My interpretation, along with other attorneys, is that an operational study is not consistency and coordination across town departments. This study is only for the police department. In addition, the police commission did not take a vote. We were not given options. There was no consultation. We were only told what they were doing and with no information about the possible litigation. These actions by the First Selectman's office pose a great risk to our police chief, police department, and police commission. At the last Board of Selectmen meeting, Selectman Chaffetz questioned the process and asked why it was not made more public. The town attorney responded that the police commission had been consulted with and that this decision falls under the First Selectman's authority to perform risk management. There are many others that do not agree that this operational study falls under the First Selectman's authority. After a close review of the town charter and Connecticut general statutes, the First Selectman's office does not have the authority to circumvent the chief of police and the police commission by withholding information about a possible litigation and implementing an operational study. Furthermore, it was brought to my attention that the police union asked attorney Eric Daigle if they would receive a copy of the finalized study. Attorney Daigle responded that he worked for the town labor attorney Lisa Lazarick and to ask her. The same question was then posed to Attorney Lazarick. Attorney Lazarick responded that she would comply with FOI and MIRA requirements, but she did not formally answer the question. It should be noted that if Attorney Daigle works for Attorney Lazarick, there is an attorney-client privilege, which is an exception under FOI. So what does this all mean? It means taxpayers are financing this operational study and the results will not be made public. So how can we fix these issues and move in the right direction? First, the study needs to be temporarily stopped, just temporarily. The police commission should discuss the operational study in open session, make a motion, if it's fit, take a vote, and acquire funding approval through the Board of Selectmen. If approved, then the police commission should facilitate the study from start to end. Standing back and letting Town Hall control this operational study is wrong for many reasons. To begin with, the chief of police has a contract with the town, and superseding him may be a violation of his contract. Our town charter reaffirms that we have a police commission and that the Connecticut General Statutes grants the Police Commission the power and authority of general management and supervision over the police department, not the First Selectman's office. It is important to remember one of the main reasons police commissions were created was to keep a separation of power between politics and police departments. If we as a commission allow this to continue, we would be given the First Selectman's office a key to our police department for everything. This is a cause of great concern given the powers and authority of a police department. This behavior must be stopped immediately. I believe an operational study will benefit the police department, but needs to be implemented by the police commission. I am further going to make a motion that the first selectman's office stops the operational study immediately, that the first selectman's office does not circumvent the chief of police on matters relating to the police department, and that the first selectman's office does not circumvent the police commission for any and all matters related to the police department as described in the town charter and Connecticut general statutes. That's all.
Can I ask you a question?
You can.
Who the hell wrote that for you? Our police union here?
I wrote that myself.
Oh,
Thank you.
consultation from the police union.
0, actually. Thank you. I actually have a master's degree and I work in law enforcement, but thank you for your degrading comments.
Rude,
Oh,
Jack.
that was
That's
so
just rude.
uncalled for.
I don't know if I take that as a
Shame on you.
compliment or
No,
disrespectful.
No, it was
I've
uncalled
heard that crap
for.
before.
It was demeaning and degrading and it's
Excuse me.
unbefitting what you
Excuse me.
just did.
Everything's out of order. We'll continue as a discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I believe you have a motion on the floor.
I second the motion that well, what is the exact motion?
All right,
If it's to stop the, temporarily stop the,
Yeah, is to make a motion to stop the operational study immediately. And that, I guess there was a lot of points in one there. Yeah, I guess my motion is to stop the operational study immediately, and then for us as the police commission to then reconvene in what I feel as though procedurally do it the correct way, which is for us to talk about it, to then, if we feel as though an operational study will benefit the police department, we then, we discuss it, we make a motion, and then we take a vote, and then we get approval of funding, and then we then go out and we do it the correct way. I think that the police commission should be the one doing such a study, it shouldn't be coming from the first selectman's office.
You just said in this statement that you thought that it would benefit and you wanted the study to happen. But you want to stop it?
Good point, yes. So right now, it's in control by the town hall. It's in control by the first selectman's office through the town labor attorney, Lisa Lazarick, who then hired attorney Eric Daigle. I don't agree with that process at all. I think as though, and unless it's just my perception, the chief of police is being circumvented, the police commission is being circumvented, and that needs to stop. That is a bad, fatal way to go down, and it's my opinion that we need to halt what's happening and then go about it the right way. And the right way to me, unless anybody else sees differently, is for us to discuss an operational study, and then we talk about the benefits of it. We make a motion that we do an operational study, we get the funding, and then we then go out and talk about the right vendor to use, whether it's Eric Daigle or some other firm.
So let's go back to the motion.
Hold on, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Could we just so we could formalize this a little bit, because we're getting pretty far off the agenda. So we heard a motion and heard a second. Could you call for discussion so the minutes reflect what's actually going on here?
Call for discussion on the motion. Can we read back the motion, please, Karen?
Oh.
Sorry.
I have update on the operational study conducted. Feels that the meeting may agree that the operational study should not, motion to temporarily stop the operational study immediately, and then as the commission, I have convenes to talk and discuss, and then make a motion for the funding to the Board of Finance, or is it Board of Selectmen, excuse me. And then revene and discuss making another motion to have the operational study.
So I guess I could just
Basically.
just simplify this, and I'll just make a motion just to temporarily stop the study at this point, and then we can go from there. So that's, I think, number one that needs to happen.
can I just ask a clarification on this? Are we asking to stop the study or request that the study be stopped? Because do we have the power to stop the study? That's the thing. That's my question.
Well, we're getting.
We could be making a motion that
Should have.
we should be making a motion to request that the study be
Okay.
stopped as a commission, because we didn't.
Yeah,
we had no part in putting
yeah,
this
true.
thing together.
So make a motion to request that the study is stopped.
If that's the motion, then I second it.
I'm not sure where we are here. So can we just start from scratch?
in terms of,
We've got motions.
there's discussion.
We're trying to clarify the motion.
Trying to- that's what I
Discussion
mean.
on
Well,
the
then, I'm
motion,
just-
I don't think that you need a vote on a request. Either of you, at any time, can email or otherwise contact via phone in person the first selectman to make any request. I don't think a motion to request something is an actual motion.
All right,
Attorney Donnelly,
then
correct me if I'm wrong.
then we'll make a motion to stop the.
The board can make, so let me just tell you what, Commissioner Conley made a motion. I would call it amended, clarified that motion, so we have a
Yeah.
motion on the table that's been seconded. The legal or procedural question there aside, they can, that motion's on the table, it's been seconded, there should be a discussion and a vote. That's the correct process.
Any further discussion?
Well, I have a question, a legal question. Does the first selectman's office or the first selectman have the legal power to fund and contract this study without the okay of the police commission? I mean, if we ask her to suspend it or stop it, can she just simply say no? I mean, where are we legally? What legal powers do we have? Because I think, and I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, but I think most people thought this was a pretty good idea. I would hate, it's already underway, I would hate to stop it just because, we're upset because we really didn't have any say in this study going forward. So
So I would say, again, I've provided the counsel that I have before, you have my opinion that says, yes, under her executive authority, she can move forward with the study with consultation with the commission. There's room for the debate there. What Commissioner Trombley, phrasing of the motion as a request, doesn't come into any question about the powers of whether the police commission has any powers over the first selectman. Frankly, as I sit here today, I can give you my gut opinion, but I would have to look at that issue and where that's been litigated and stuff before, because there's nothing in the statute that says that gives us precedence for this that I've read. And I'm not trying to punt on that question. I do think it would be unlikely for a police commission to have authority over the executive of the town, but again, we're in fairly uncharted waters here. But under the motion as it's phrased, the request, that's certainly an appropriate motion for the commission to make. It's been made and it's been seconded. The process goes forward from there.
To make a comment before we vote, I think it's important that we do vote on it, because we may not get the votes to stop it, but at least we'll be on the record as saying that there's members of this commission that are not happy with the process of how this was done, and we don't want to set a precedent that the first selectwoman can attach our names to things that we had no input on. So that's the reason I would like to have a vote on this.
Next step is discussion. We're done with discussion.
Carrying on. My interpretation of coordination and consistency across town departments, a good example is the door locks for the PD. That's wonderful. If the first selectman's office wants to come in here and put new door locks on, and that's something they're doing across town hall or cameras, that's absolutely wonderful. An operational study of the police department is not consistency and coordination across town departments. You're looking at one department and one department solely. I got a big issue with that Eric Daigle was already sitting in that meeting that we showed up to. And I got a big problem when Eric Daigle flat out says, there's a two-part thing, possible litigation and an operational study. Eric Daigle, what's your role? Are you one, or are you the other, or are you both? He has nothing to do with the possible litigation that's coming straight from his mouth, but why is he in executive session discussing that, or part of it? I got a big issue with that. He's only operational study, but now he's carrying forward this operational study that now I worry about this attorney-client privilege that's come to light, and that if taxpayers are financing this, I have a huge issue with the way the process is being done. I don't have an issue with the operational study. I think it could be a great thing, and I think it could be, if it's done right, I think it would be absolutely wonderful for the police department, but it should go through the commission. It shouldn't go through the town hall, and it shouldn't go through the town labor attorney through another attorney, that then she can tell us whatever she wants, and that signed, sealed copy of the report is never handed out because of FOI, of an attorney-client privilege. So that's where my...
Enough discussion?
Well, I think this is I'm on the fence because I think the study would do, it might do, great things. It might find where we've got strengths and weaknesses and where we can start fixing things and decide we do need a detective, for instance, thing like, and where I hear you guys and I agree with you 100%, but to stop it now, it's already funded, and to stop it now,
Is it?
is it going to be,
Funded.
I don't know if it's funded or not. We weren't told that.
well,
Not in any minutes anywhere.
that they started already?
Who's
That's-
paying for it? How is it getting funded?
That's some of my concerns, I guess. It's just, my concern is
Well,
with the
good question.
procedure that this is taken. It's not the study. I think the study's a great thing. I think it could benefit the town, it could benefit the police department, it could benefit everyone. But it's the process that's being taken here. And whether or not we like Melissa Mack or not, somebody else could be voted into office in the next election. And it's scary to me to set a precedent that any voted first selectman can just walk in the police department and it's like they have carte blanche to, we have executive authority over the police department, over the chief of police, over the police commission, that whatever, we're gonna handle a possible litigation. We're gonna handle an operational study. I got issue with that.
As do I.
Again, are we to a point where we're
I think we're ready to vote.
ready to vote? Want to go around the table? Rick?
I vote for the motion.
Still deciding.
Jack?
No.
No.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm hearing, I'm voting yes also. 'Cause I hear the concerns.
No.
And here we have 6 members on the police commission. Here lies the issue.
So motion fails for lack of a... Are we done with the operational study?
But just before you, because I've sat here for 2 hours and waiting to say something, I don't think that anybody is debating the efficacy of the study. I think what they're here for is the perception that the police commission was circumvented by the first selectman, and that's problematic. Really problematic. And you're aiding and abetting
What
that.
else you got? Sorry.
What else do I have?
Get more comments? Or?
We should have listened to us before you voted. I think we could have. But yeah, I realize, you had to formally close it, but I'd like, Derek, could I say something to Derek? Just because there's been the precedent is year after, I've been here 40 years. We've always had a separate governance of the police department. We keep politics out of it. So if you look back through, I don't believe you'll find an example where this kind of thing ever happened. When I saw that on January 4th, I almost died. I thought, what? Town of Suffield. I mean, that power, they've set it up there. You don't give that kind of power to one person that's going to change every 2.5 to 3 years. I mean, it's just the wrong thing to do. Forget the legal aspect. But I think the precedent is established by year after year. That's the way this town's been run. And to me, the state statute, it's the next one after your 275 is 276, clearly states
Gordon.
state authority. What?
With all due respect, if we can wait till public comment.
So what?
If you don't mind waiting until public comment, it's coming.
Well, Gordon, I'm
Well,
glad,
it
I'm
seems
glad you
like,
bring that
I
up.
just saw you voted. I wanted to butt in and say, why don't you listen to us first and then vote? I think this is going to be very damaging. I think you're starting to say things that you
Repercussions are very,
think,
very
you did a
bad.
great job. Okay.
Can we get back to-
Well, I think just.
This is gonna be
It's,
such a thing in town, that it's gonna tear the town apart. Melissa does not wanna go down this path. I supported Melissa, but she's,
Can we get
this
back,
is a
excuse
power
me,
move or something.
excuse me, with all due respect,
Okay.
could we get back to the agenda? Public comment is coming.
It's almost my bedtime.
Update on the dispatcher position? I put Chief Brown, but I wonder if you have comments.
no, you know what, I'm sorry, I was not at the last meeting, and in the minutes tonight from the last meeting, I saw that the dispatcher position was updated.
Do we have an update since I did put it on there?
The update for that position is I'm planning on making some operational changes. I'm having a meeting with my staff on Friday. The lieutenant who's currently in charge of the PSAP, the Public Safety Answering Point, is away earlier this week, and with holidays just a week before, it's been delayed. But I want the person that will be undertaking that project to have it from start to finish, not start it partway and then have it turned over, just to keep continuity of operations. So a posting will be forthcoming.
Okay, thank you. Fully discussed your detective position.
I really think that the other two are much bigger issues than the detective position at this point.
At this point in time, I'm going to move to, I need a motion to move to executive session.
Sure.
Let's do public comment.
Let's do public comment.
Public comment first.
Yeah, public comment.
Okay.
I'll make a motion for public comment.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If, as you speak, just as a reminder, if you could stand or sit, but state your name and address, please.
Jenny Brumage, 576 North Main Street. Just because of all this back and forth dialogue, I'd like to know how the police commission and/or the first selectman's office is going to do damage control on this perceived underhanded kind of a deal. You know, what's the game plan?
It's public comment, Jenny. I'm not going to respond to it. So, thank you.
I came here, can I go next? Since I've already had 3 shots at it. I came here tonight basically just to say, after I'd read
State your
this,
name for the record, just so we're clear.
Gordon Stagg, 1575 North Stone Street. Are you a lawyer too?
I am.
I thought so. Anyway, I came here tonight after reading this primarily to say, oh my God. Any good chief is not going to put up with this. He's out. I'm not speaking for him, I'm speaking for any good chief. And I was involved with you and a number of people we really had an extensive selection process. And a lot of good officers came from around. Jack was there, and Jeff, you were there.
Yeah.
And I think we started out thinking, oh, we got to have somebody outside. We got to do, we weren't on the same page anyhow. So we came out saying there's one guy head and shoulders above everybody else. Mm-hmm. That guy right there.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think the big damage is going to be. I'm not speaking for him at all, but he's not. He's. This all should have not only been you, but you with him. He runs the police department, and you guys are oversight. And then you go way over here to the town. They don't know anything either. We're all just average people. What do we know about a police department? What do you know about a police department? None of us. So if you don't work through your people who are so good, you're undercutting them. And all these words that were in this letter that went out, it just seemed like to me they were somebody taking advantage of I mean, what's this thing about a resident, a single resident threatens some litigation? So what? Somebody does that every week, every month. This somehow got us into this terrible situation? Is it, what's it, and I don't even know what that is. So there's so much hidden here. And I'd like to know. I'll find out. Because there's no secrets in Suffield. So you can go into secret meetings as much as you want to. But this is going to come out. And it won't be pretty. But it seems to be, I don't know whether we grabbed a hold of that legally, and I'm not aiming at anything at you personally, but it seems like we just were figuring out, okay, we do it, say this. This speaks for the chief. I don't think this speaks for the chief at all. I think he had no option but to play ball. That's my opinion. And I've been in management in New York and a lot of places. I know management. I know this kind of stuff. I think you should have called the timeout. I wanted to jump in once more and say, you're trying to go to yes to no, but if you call the timeout and let's talk this thing out, and maybe Melissa needs to be there, and maybe you, and listen, why should Suffield be in such a situation? It's mind-boggling. And you're my friend, and we're Rotarians together, and I think you guys have to manage this thing. This thing that I'm reading here, even with the litigation, with maybe legal consultation out to the side, should never have gotten out of this body. It's your job to do it, to solve it, to work with the chief, to solve whatever's in there. I don't know what's in there, but whatever it is, you solve it with you guys. You're the management group. So if you go over there, what's the expertise you're getting? Legal. I'm not putting them down. Melissa's as sharp a first select person as we've had around here, but all of them aren't sharp. So the precedent, somebody talked about a precedent. The precedent of giving the first select person this kind of power is a first, and it's a major mistake, and that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thanks, Gordon. Nancy.
Well, I actually have 2 things. Rick, the first thing, I'm sorry, I'm Nancy Wigeski, 171 Jackson Drive. Rick, we had spoken quite a while ago about the school resource officer and the fact that we see no real female officers on the team. When you, are we looking for a female resource officer moving forward? Because the feedback coming to me from, well, I have a granddaughter in school, in high school, so I get a lot of stuff that she slips out with. And the general consensus from her and what she sees is that it would be a great benefit to have a female who has access to the ladies' bathrooms. That, with all due respect, Tommy just doesn't.
So you're actually bringing up something that's state statute now. We're actually required by law to go out through equal opportunity and try to recruit minority, a variety. We can't just, it's part of the state law and our last hiring practices. It's actually part of the CLES program I've been talking about. We have to demonstrate that we're in compliance with the state law, that we circulate our postings outside the normal channels to minority, ethnic groups, whatever the case may be, to show that we're trying to diversify as much as possible.
So hopefully we
So it's whether I can, I put it out there, it's whether or not I actually attract candidates that are female, or, I can't control who comes.
Right.
All I can do is control where I put the applications out.
I'm hoping that that's what
You're
happens.
suggesting 2 resource officers? Because a female couldn't go to the men's room either.
Well, no, Tommy can go. We need another one. And it's my opinion, that man's overworked in school. There's a lot going on that they deal with, and having a second resource officer would not be a bad thing. So therefore, I wouldn't mind having a female officer. I think we should have more female officers in town. It'd be nice to see you. But that was that. But thank you. And the second, I really don't like to be critical, but one of the things that a police commission members, when the town votes, we're not voting for Democrats or Republicans. We're not. Not when it comes to commissions like this. At least I'm not. And what I saw here today is the same thing that we saw several years ago with a division that is palpable. And we're not, I would have really hoped that the public trust that is placed in each and every individual that comes on here would not be violated to the point where comments that were so uncalled for, rude and demeaning, to another member of your team, your commission, were made in a public place where all of us got to view that. It was disgraceful, in my opinion. And it also, this is a major precedent that y'all just set here with this back and forth stuff. And it was pretty clear who was on what side, and your minds were already made up. But the bottom line is, you were talking about something that was more than whether or not you were electing a new police car. This is something that never should have gotten this far. Every single one of you should have had a conversation as a commission about whether or not this, I can't even remember what it's called, I'm so peeved, this investigation thing that you've got set up. It never should have reached the point where you have members of your team who felt so disenfranchised that it had to come out this way. A consultation, I don't care what the legalese is, a consultation by most people's common sense is a discussion. You talk about it. But to have names assigned to something as if all of you were doing the dance of joy that this was commissioned by the first selectman, when in fact it was not. And now you can't even come together as a commission to decide whether or not you wanted to follow through and give a selectman the power to come in and circumvent every single one of you. And that's what happened. It may not be your perception, but from every one of us sitting out here, the perception is you guys were just yes men and used to get whatever she wanted. Now, was that true? Was it not true? I don't know. But all I know is that's the perception that came out. And I recognize that when you're sitting in the middle of it, you don't really feel that way. I know you didn't feel that way, but you didn't feel his discontent when he tried to explain to you how dissatisfied he was that you alone are having a conversation over at the selectman's office about a detective when this should be something that your entire commission has a discussion about. And he finds out not from the commission. It's to me, this is a group that has gone awry again. And we're going to be right back to where we started from several years ago with an entire town up in arms because decisions are being made that are clearly not discussed, that are decided well beyond every one of you who have been voted into this. I didn't vote for a selectman to sit on your team. She's where she belongs. I know she can come in and be the seventh vote, but she is not you. She does not have the authority to come in and use your names to get a study done. She doesn't. Or, well, she does now because you just gave that to her. And the next one who comes in who decides they want to do something like this, you guys have set a precedent, every single one of you. You may not realize it, but that's what's going to happen. They're going to say, you know what? This is how it happened. We consulted because we sat at the same table with you. And I let you ask me a question. We consulted. Your names are attached to this. You have no say. And we're doing this. And you did it. And you did it in a way tonight that I found pretty difficult to sit through. And we'll be back. Every one of us will be back. Because now there's a level of distrust here. Again. And lack of transparency. Again. And to me, frustration. Again. And I don't understand where there's going to ever be an end to that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I just say one word of clarification here? The lady says investigation. This is a management study.
All right, I used the
They're
wrong
done
word,
all
and I
over the place.
apologize already.
I was a management analyst for a number of
I know,
years,
but-
and it's not an investigation. It's a study for productivity.
I got
Thank
it, and I
you. Jack,
corrected
we're good.
myself later in the conversation. Just as you couldn't remember what it was called during your conversation, that I didn't be rude to you.
Thank you, Nancy. You're back?
Jackie Mahana, 50 Diane Lane. So I had this nice thing all written up, but you guys just blew that all up for me. basically, I'm 100% on board with Jason. A lot of the stuff he said was stuff I had written here. Some questions that may or may not be able to be answered. The press release from Melissa states that Chief Brown supports this operational study. If Chief feels that he would like to answer me, I was wondering what his involvement in this decision was, and if he had any say about whether it was good, and what the scope, if anybody knows what the scope of this study is. Because now that it's coinciding with a citizen concern, it's making it really foggy, and it's not clear cut whether this is going to truly be a study helping the department go towards the 21st century policing, which we're all on board with, absolutely. But I feel that this is a way for whoever this person is that may has this concern. As far as all we know, there's no complaint in writing, which is another one of my questions. Does anybody know what this concern, complaint, or what it is? Because I have to assume that the department has a fantastic procedure to follow when there is a complaint done. And I have full support that Rick and Chris, or whoever is involved in it, would do their job to the fullest. So, I guess one is, do we know the scope of this? And Rick, Chief, were you involved with what the scope of this is going to be?
I'm just gonna have to leave it at this, Jackie. You know I've always valued transparency. I mean, a lot of people have been to my office. But at this point, it's not appropriate for me to comment. It's a matter that's now being addressed between the Office of the First Selectman and the Police Commission.
Can you answer whether anybody knows, other than Melissa and rumor has it, Chairman Pasco, what this concern is? Does anybody else know what it is? Can anybody answer that?
No.
Okay, so bottom line is this concern has not been addressed to the police commission.
Correct.
Bottom line is that we have two things intertwining, which is a concern, which should not be addressed unless it's formally in writing. And then Melissa's, and I know you have no control over this, Melissa's release, my opinion is that I don't know how she can state that the chief supports this if nobody knows what the scope of this is. Like, why would anybody support something that they don't know what's going to happen? And I feel like this is what all of you commission members should have looked at before saying, oh yeah, Melissa wants it, so let's do it. And trust me, I am an independent, I am not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I like Melissa, she does a great job, so this is nothing political whatsoever. We've been down this road with the commission, and we have some remaining members. And it is saddening to see that it has become a political thing again. It's clear by the way people were acting. And like Nancy said, I will be here every month again because we can't go down this road. Just an observation from the discussions and listening to Chairman Pasco. I'm not sure if you're fit for this position. You seem totally unorganized, not sure of how things are supposed to run. Maybe that's no fault of your own. Maybe the rules and how things are supposed to be run were not flowed down to you. You could have jumped in blindly. I don't know. But you don't seem very organized to be in the position that you're in. And then also Jack's comments were completely uncalled for. And so I guess we don't have any answers because nobody knows what the concern is. And unfortunately, you guys just set a really bad precedence, and now I have to spend Wednesday nights here.
Yeah. Thank
In
you.
the winter.
Anyone else? Tom?
Tom Frenay, Warnertown Road. I haven't been here for 2 years for a good reason, because I think things have been working very well, at least from a distance. And but I'm back, and I don't like it. When I saw the press release, I had a similar moment that Gordon described, which was, WTF, what's going on here? I don't understand why a threatened lawsuit would be tied into a study that is being taken. I think you either need a study or you don't need a study. And I didn't understand from the press release why it wasn't the police commission going on record saying, good idea. The only reason I could think of was that maybe the study had more to do with the chief than anything else, because otherwise the commission would be much more involved in it. But I gather it does not. And I guess I will say, by the way, chief, please stick around, you're good. Don't let this, whatever. So the bottom line is a kind of a follow on from what Jackie asked, which is, have any of you actually seen the description of the study and what it's intended to do? And I gather the answer is no. And then maybe a question for Derek, if he's willing to answer, is it public? Is that something that I'm allowed to have a copy of? Is that something you're allowed to have a copy of? Or is this a study that's buried under the executive session? Is this something the town's going to pay for but not ever find out what it's about? It's a contract that's been signed by the town, so I'm assuming that's public information. Am I correct about that, or am I not? Thank you.
I can just say I haven't seen anything personally. It's being dealt with by a labor attorney, so
Okay.
I can't give you an answer because that's not my purview there.
Okay. I'll send a note to Melissa and ask for it.
Can you answer whether there's been a formal complaint filed, or are we just working on a concern?
I am not privy to that information. And if I was, I couldn't discuss it.
But if there was a formal complaint filed, that's public information, right?
It would depend on a number of factors.
Okay.
It could be.
Okay.
It also could not be, depending on what it falls under. And I'm not trying to play the
I know, I
lawyer
totally
card.
understand. I
I'm trying to be
understand.
very careful because I, again, am not, I'm here tonight to help out, to answer as many questions as possible, but this is not something that I'm involved in. Being
Can I make one more comment about to Derek? Because I think legal power, just plain legal power is a big question here. I mentioned just the precedent, but Connecticut statute 7276, I'll read it, won't take long. Towns are not required to create police commissions, but if they do, statutes require the commission to be given full statutory powers. This section also states police commissions shall have general management and supervision of the police department of such a town. But they shall have sole power of appointment, promotion, removal. Now, there's always gray areas. You know that, there's words you use, risk, something about risk. She could step in if there's unusual risk, and maybe that's why that litigation thing's in there. That gave her legal shot to get in. I don't know. I mean, I don't like to play games with legal words. But something crazy has happened here. And I just want to share one other thing with you. I was just in Xanthos right after I hadn't even read this yet. And I was sitting with a person with an emergency aid board with me. And an officer came in. And we sat over the side. I knew him. I know most of the officers. And before he left, how are you doing? How are you doing? I said, you heard what's going on in the police department? I didn't know what's going on. Long story short, his interpretation was that they're after our leaders. They're after that's what he told me. I'm not going to say a name like you're not going to say a name. That's the damage it's gonna be done.
That's what's happening. The talk around town
Yeah.
is that.
Sorry, I mean, I'm
Well,
just
no,
saying,
yeah,
I
that's
probably
what we
shouldn't.
heard.
But I think that's important for us to share that, because that's what's happening at the officers. And I know they've got something they're upset. They're always upset about something. I mean, I'm not saying it's not legitimate, but you guys solve it. God almighty, it just, why did it, can you say anything about it? Why did you feel the need to go? Or are you giving up secret? Why did you feel the need to go to Melissa? My friend,
I can't answer it, Gordon. Can't answer that question.
maybe you're uncomfortable in that job. I wouldn't want it, I'll tell you that much.
Maybe while we're being
No,
transparent.
but
where it
the
is
thing
that
is, if
after
you
going
guys,
to who's with
you guys
Melissa,
really should somehow
trying to push
time it out,
out
stop it,
management.
have discussions. This gotta be, don't let this thing run amok. Because
Thank-
these guys, I bet there was no definition of need. In other words, if I'm the manager and I'm gonna feel the need to bring somebody in, I've written up a definition of need that represents, it would come from you in this case, that represents what I need. In other words, you might start it, or if they're gonna start it, they come to you and you add to it, and then that's what they can add to it if they add value. If they can't add value, they don't get any money. They don't make a deal. But that's the way the process is supposed to work in any management situation. So I don't think that happens here. I think you should take another vote. I just hate to see you feel just going down the road.
Thank you, Gordon.
Just one more thing, because I part of the reason that I've been so frustrated was really well articulated by Mr. Stagg. You see, we've all here because we heard stuff. Nobody came here because, it was nothing else to do on a Wednesday night. There's a lot going around town. And part of it is the perception that Melissa Mack, with your cooperation, I'm sad to say, is going after the leadership. And whether that's true or not, who knows? But a lady many, many years ago told me that my perception was her reality, just like what you said today. I don't know how to tell you guys this, but our perception and the perception coming from a lot of folks in town is now your reality once again. And you kind of played right into this. And you did it again tonight in full view of all of us. Instead of clarifying that was not so, you made it, you deepened the perception that there is a lack of transparency, not just between the commission and the town, which used to be the perception, but I'm sorry, Kevin, with you. And that was before we got here, and it was magnified tenfold throughout this meeting. And the problem with that is this study is not gonna, no matter how it comes out, if we don't now as a town see the whole thing, and nobody can tell us if we're going to. None of you seem to know what the heck is going on or you're willing to share with us. Most of you don't seem to know what spurred this even. Now, you've negated any authority you have as a commission, and you did it willingly tonight. You gave it up by that vote. You just gave it up. You gave up what your role as commissioners are supposed to be, but you also let these two guys down. And every single one of the men and women that you're supposed to be safeguarding and overseeing and protecting here. You did that. And he's right. He's right. You should probably make a motion to start all over again, because you have a chance to fix this tonight. But when we leave, and this hits the floor, it's going to hit the floor.
I'll probably be writing it, just so you
and
know.
I'm going to be right there commenting. Once that happens, there's no turning it back. And you've allowed that to happen. And the frustration that we're feeling is not because we're mad at you. It's because we know where this is going to go. We know what got us here. And the rumbling is just now starting. If this continues, the way this perception of secrecy and authoritarian, what is that word? Because I can't think, it's past my bedtime. The autocracy that you've got here, the perception of that, between you and Melissa, it's not good. And it's only going to cause so much just pain in town. And for all of you, frankly.
Thank you.
I have to clarify something. I said something that you interpreted a certain way. I was not saying that Melissa was after the leadership.
No, I didn't say that either.
I thought you did.
No, I said that's what's come back.
What that
to
officer said were the questions being asked of him
Yes.
were aimed at the leadership.
I got the same. I got the same thing, and maybe
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, and I was
Thank you.
just saying the same thing you did, but not quite as well.
Anybody else?
I just want to say in summary, it's possible that whatever legal action was taken against the town or made that complaint, that somebody, Melissa or somebody, took a look at that and said, well, maybe this is a good time to see if we have the rules and regs in place to deal with this, and maybe she felt that you didn't. So let's do this study, and this consulting firm apparently has a wonderful reputation. The police, the guy who's in charge of the police union is on board with it, and that seems fine. But I think the big issue here, at least for me, was that this decision was made without the police commission input, and that's really why I was here.
Thank you for your comments. I hate to say, Gordon, you're still here if I say if there's any more comments.
Well,
I'm just playing with you.
thanks for the
Thank you
opportunity to speak to you.
for your comments. Item 10 is an executive session.
Am I able to make a motion before we convene, or before we go into executive session? Is there anything preventing me making a motion? Okay. So after my own thoughts compiled with everyone that came out tonight and then spoke, one of the items that wasn't on the agenda was this possible litigation. So I'd like to make a motion that the first selectman's office ceases and desists immediately with the possible litigation and hands over any and all paperwork to the chief of police to handle at his discretion as he sees appropriate.
I second that motion.
And again, in fairness to the comment back there, I'm not sure how to react, how to
That's
proceed.
why you should
So,
give the power to
and-
her, because you
could
don't
you
know
just-
what's going
could-
on.
so can I defer? Derek, can you help me?
Well, I got one more point to make real quick, is that I feel as though if you're not gonna say it, then I will, that I believe there's a conflict here with this possible litigation, so you should recuse yourself from the vote on this.
And what's the conflict?
Word on the street's the same.
Do you want me to say it?
It's an executive session. So
Well, I'm asking you, are you gonna recuse yourself?
Well, if that's the case, you should have done it right away. If that's the answer.
I
Then
don't
you got a
believe-
whole problem there, because if that,
No.
if you, okay, but if you should have, then this whole thing's gotta go
No.
back to zero.
If there's any conflict, our bylaws go into, I mean, I don't have to quote our bylaws, but I could if we need to. Whether it's the town ethics policy and the town charter, or our bylaws, there's 3 different documents that talk about conflicts of interest. And I feel as though you need to recuse yourself for this vote.
I don't have a
The right of recusal rests with the person who holds the conflict. So
And if he,
said-
okay,
He said that he does not feel the need to recuse himself. If there's nothing more you can do tonight,
okay.
there are other avenues under the town ethics code that you can pursue.
As long as it's on the record.
You had a motion, though.
I do have a motion.
Just,
Rick
I
said.
think the chairman asked me to comment on the motion. If I
I,
understood that right.
it's not an agenda item, we're off agenda, we're past public comment, we're going to executive session.
I would just say the chief doesn't have authority to handle litigation matters for the town. That power rests with the first selectman. So,
But there's no litigation, I mean,
If possible, is there litigation if there's no intent to sue or suit? There's no suit filed or no intent to suit, then where's the litigation?
the chief doesn't have the authority to handle litigation strategy for the town. That's my advice.
Okay, so I'll go back to, I made a motion that any matter concerning the police department as it was described to me, it's a concerned citizen or citizens. So this concerned citizen or citizens inquiry, complaint, discussion, whatever we want to classify it as, I'm saying that the first selectman's office shall immediately cease and desist and hand over any and all information to the chief of police to handle at his discretion as he sees fit.
And I seconded the motion.
Any discussion?
Well, the only discussion is the concerned citizen chose to go to the first selectman, the way I understand it.
And I think this is all getting into a gray
So
area,
we can't
not
then
gray
say
area,
you
but
can't go to the first selectman, you need to go to the police.
Did they really go to the first selectman, or did they go somebody else first?
Well, it just happened
Don't
to
know.
be the first selectman. I mean, it could be any person that then goes to the chief.
If it's a PD concern, it should be first investigated by the PD.
Yeah, we have policy at the police department considering internal affairs, investigations, complaints, procedures. The list goes on. I'm not sure of any process that the town's first selectman's office has for handling any complaints concerning the police department. This isn't a complaint about a pothole on the road. This isn't a complaint about a town highway truck. This is an issue or a concern involving the police department. And my motion comes from the side that the police chief, he is the head, he is the chief executive officer of the police department, and he shall be in full control of the police department at all times.
So let me just say this, make a recommendation. I appreciate what you're trying to do, so I'm not trying to muddy the waters or anything like that. I am not privy to any of the specific information that's being, as I mentioned, is being handled by Labor Council. I would suggest that the commission table that motion and get the Labor Council here to discuss that item, at the next meeting, and then deal with that question appropriately. I would hate to have you make decisions, cast yes votes, no votes, without being properly informed, and I can't, in good faith, inform you of that because I don't have any actual knowledge.
I'm glad you bring up those points, Derek, because even me personally, I had a hard time writing this stuff and coming out with this publicly tonight, which I never should have been forced to do, and that we attempted through so many different ways to have another meeting, to have another special meeting, to have an executive session about this, and we were just flat out, the door was slammed in our face and said no. So that's why I guess this process has now gone to these steps, which is not the way I wanted things to go, but unfortunately this is the only avenue to try to rectify these two issues that I see as big problems.
And listen, I know this seems very strange coming from me, but for the benefit of everyone on the commission, and also everyone in the audience, going back to the initial thing I discussed with you, the reason why this stuff is not done via email is because these conversations, no matter how painful they are, should happen in public. So, I commend all of you. I know I've sat in your shoes before on commissions. I understand it's very uncomfortable to stand up to your fellow members of the commission and everything else. I understand it's tough to take tough questions from the audience, but again, these questions are supposed to be done in public. The questioning is supposed to be done in public. So, I hope you appreciate that. I would, again, my counsel would be to table this item to a future agenda and get the appropriate legal counsel to advise you on it before you move forward.
So when would be our next meeting, in a month from now? Is that what we were?
23rd or so.
It's about the 23rd or 24th. Let me see.
I guess my only concern is any further damage that could happen in that next month.
27th.
One way or the other, without the chief being in control.
Tim was correct, it's the 27th, it's the last Wednesday of the month.
So let me ask you, Justin,
What's that?
Vote on a special meeting now.
how you say the concept of the study is of value.
Correct.
Okay. Now, the study apparently is going on. I don't know if they've been in the door yet or not, but
Yeah, it's begun, yep.
All right. So what would be gained? We, at least I, and I guess you, and I think others, believe there's benefit of the study. I have full benefit of this, I have full reliance or acceptance of the study based on what I know the study does. Why do we consider stopping? Darren said, put it to the next meeting. There's no, if the study's ongoing and the research is being done, and the contacts are being made, and as I understand it, it's gonna be, all the officers are gonna be interviewed.
So Jack, really quick, I'm not opposed to the operational study. It's the procedure that it's gone through between circumventing the chief of police and the commission. My motion right now has nothing to do with the operational study. My motion right now has everything to do with this possible litigation and saying, take it from the first selectman's office.
But you're saying you wanna stop the study until you get the thing.
Well, the study motion, you already said no to, and it was a 3-3 vote, so that didn't carry. So the operational study is not on the table right now. What's on the table right now is the possible litigation aspect, the other item. And the possible litigation still remains in the hands of the first selectman and, I guess, Chairman Pasco. I mean, I don't know
So let me just jump in here, because we're so far off the agenda.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
So I probably gave you the incorrect advice before. Rather than making your motion, we should have moved to amend the agenda to add the item, and then you can make your motion. We're pretty procedurally off here.
Okay.
So, you know, I would suggest if you're going to go into a fairly detailed discussion here, we should add the item to the agenda. Let's try to do this right.
I guess that's why I asked if I could make a motion, and I was told yes. So then I made a motion, and now I'm
Or fine, or call the question on the motion, but you know, we do it. There is a motion on the table, so I think it's fair to consider it. But again, we're going way past what the agenda says here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, I think it's pretty simple. So I guess what would be the item to put on the agenda? How would you like it phrased?
We have a motion on the table, so you have to address it. You can
Okay.
Table it. You can
So that's it. I mean, that's my
call the
motion.
question.
Again, with what is the motion?
My motion.
Thank you.
Once again, the third time, is for the first selectman's office to immediately cease and desist with this possible litigation and hand over any and all documents relating to this possible litigation to the chief of police immediately, and to let him handle it as he sees fit.
And my advice is that motion as phrased would not be appropriate for the commission to consider.
For the what?
For the commission to consider.
Why? Because it's
You're directing the.
Very simply,
Very simply,
Derek has said it before, litigation cannot be handled by the department or by us.
once again, there's no litigation. There's no intent to
Well,
sue.
you're
There's no
you're
suit.
saying
There's no
proposed
litigation.
litigation or whatever.
They just classified it as possible litigation. Nobody, where's the litigation? It's just that I was told it was a concerned citizen or citizens. So let's call it a concerned citizen or citizens.
That's what, read it right off here.
Yeah, there we go.
Concern raised by a resident and possible litigation.
So that exactly.
That's what's in
The
the.
concern raised by a citizen and possible litigation.
Well, it's my understanding that litigation is not in our purview.
There is no litigation. There's no intent to sue. There's no suit.
But you're saying hand over
Is the
possible
concern-
litigation
is the
back to us.
concern within it?
Well, I'm just trying to, again, sorry for the fourth time, clarify the motion, because you said direct the first selectman to hand over possible litigation, and then I lost track. Because,
Okay, I think we're talking
So-
about the same matter here. There's only two things. There's an operational
Yeah,
study,
which-
and then there's a concerned citizen or citizens, these individuals that
Okay.
came to you. So you know what I'm talking about. This incident surrounding that, however you want to phrase it, that the first selectman's office shall stop, cease and desist, whatever they're doing, and hand over any and all documents to the chief of police immediately for him to handle as he sees fit. And let him be a chief of police and do what he needs to do.
But if there is a question in that thing of a possible litigation, You can't hand it to the.
Well, how do we know that if you're not telling me what it is? It says a concerned citizen. I don't know.
Again, my counsel would be, when the motion was phrased, probably is inappropriate under the charter. If you would like more information, I cannot provide it, I don't have it. I would suggest tabling that item to a future agenda where you can get more information from the Labor Council.
It's amazing to me that that line's in that letter. I mean, what was the purpose of that being in the letter? I'm trying to get my head around that letter. Why was that?
Is it going to be on the agenda for the next meeting, or are you going to say no?
Brought
to putting
everyone
it
in
on
this
the
room.
agenda?
Huh?
That's what brought everyone in this
So
room.
you understand what I'm saying here? This is where we have issues. If I knew for a fact
If you
that it'd
have
be
a
on the agenda.
concern, if you have a concern that Derek Attorney Donnelly is saying, defer to the labor attorney, then we'll get the labor attorney in, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
If
Okay,
you
sounds good. So-
table the item, you can raise it on a future agenda.
Okay. So, but I don't have say to put it on the agenda. You understand the predicament here? But I'll table the item. I'm not trying to be a pain.
Jason, if we table it, it should be old business.
Okay, so it'll come up again. Okay, so I'll table it.
Yeah, because I would certainly like to, understand a little bit more than what we know before we decide one way or the other. I mean, if it's just a concerned citizen who came to the first selectman's office, that's that person's prerogative. So I would want to table it and get more information.
Okay, moving on to item 10, executive session.
Break.
Want to take a break?
Can we have a motion to go into executive session,
Yes.
please?
I make a motion, we go into executive session.
Second it.
To discuss
I am going to invite in
To
the
discuss
chief
this, all right.
and Attorney Donnelly.
Can we take a break?
Wait, what time are we, this can't go on all night, we have live, so this can't happen, I can't, I can't stay here.
That's why you're on this commission.
So can we have a plan here?
Yes.
I can't even sit here.